All right, what's going on, everybody? It's Shamir and Arjun here for our 10th episode of Detroit Gamesters.
Gang, gang.
It is Memorial Day, so we all hung out. It was actually pretty good weather in Michigan, so got some sun. Now it's kind of late in the evening, and we thought we'd do a podcast.
Respect all the fallen heroes.
Right? Yeah, most definitely. So it's been a little while. I think it's been like 2.5 weeks, which I think has given us a good amount of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I think this episode may be a little less gaming focused and a little bit more Hollywood focused, but I guess we can get started. So let's start off with what we've been playing. So Arjun, have you beat Ninja Gaiden yet?
No, I have not.
Oh my god, Arjun. Just give up.
I will never give up on this game.
I was just talking to you about this earlier. It amazes me that you have not been able to play Ninja Gaiden, but you still play Pokemon every week, and it's probably a Pokemon game you've beat like 10 times.
Yeah, it kind of is. Look, here, let me explain this a little bit. So, yes, you're right. So, I have this routine right now where I do two things. One is every day after work, right before I hit the gym, because gym is a religion now, and I am crazy about going to the gym. I, give myself 30 minutes to play Pokemon. I've actually been playing Pokemon Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire on the DS. I just got a 2DS, which I've never had before, but it feels great playing it on that. And that's like a 15 to 30 minute thing. I played in my car with a coworker. We're actually having a blast playing it together. I don't know if anyone's ever taken the time to play a game together that isn't multiplayer co-op focused. It's kind of interesting.
How do you guys play together?
We just sit in our cars, we bring out our DSs, and we both play a different Pokemon game at the same time. But it feels motivating because we've played the games that we're playing. So like he's never played Pokemon Emerald. I played it and beat it as a kid. He beat Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I never beat it. So we're kind of giving each other tips and hints.
So he's playing a much older game,
yes.
Right? Because he's playing old school Emerald.
Yeah, so sorry, he's playing GBA. And I'm playing DS. So it's kind of nice because I'm giving him tips. I'm like, hey, I remember that portion. Watch out for these enemies, these types of Pokemon. And he's doing the same for me. I kind of like that.
I kind of like the nostalgia, not going to lie. I was randomly getting some like YouTube shorts and like Instagram reels and stuff like that. And they were about Omega Ruby.
Oh, really?
As random as it is. And so for me, my favorite Pokemon game is by far Fire Red, just because of how much I played it. Okay. But a close second is Emerald. And I have never been able to play Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire because I really didn't have anything Nintendo for years until I finally got the Nintendo Wii U. So I totally missed out on those, and I kind of wish I could play them on my Switch, but you don't have the ability to do that yet.
The Pokemon Company will never, I won't say never, but I don't think they ever will re-release them. And they had a lot of function that relied on the dual screen of the DS, so it'd be hard to maybe emulate a little bit of that on the Switch.
But so nowadays, if you actually wanted to play Fire Red legally, your only option is literally a GBA. Yeah. That is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And same with some of these Nintendo DS Pokemon games like Black and White and stuff. You literally need a DS. It's ridiculous. So I have like two DSs now.
And I think I was actually reading somewhere that if you try to like sell or buy like one of those DSs, like the 2DS or 3DS, they're still like
I had to buy a 2DS for like $250. That's more than a goddamn original Switch.
When did you buy that?
I bought it a couple months ago so I can play this goddamn game. So here's what I will say. Very interesting remake of a game that came out like 8-9 years ago. They used the 3D engine at the time, I think, from either X and Y or Black and White to remake Alpha or Ruby and Sapphire. And man, they did an amazing job. And this is what I don't like now with the Switch games is scope creep in the sense that like everything has to be open world, right? But the fact that the games were limited and technically on the DS, and they go, we'll just use our current engine to remake an older game, and it's still like feasible. Like they didn't have to go out of their way to make this bombastic, crazy game. It just looked so much prettier, and then quality of life changes. So I like that. Like, I feel like the DS was the last great generation for Pokemon games, in my opinion. That's like where it stopped. But again, it's
because what was after the DS? Switch games, right?
Yeah, then it was just the Switch games.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, and they did remake Yellow with Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu.
It's not the same.
So
I was just thinking about it. Like, I think that's one of the best examples where the hardware limitations actually cause the game to have a certain structure that just cannot be replicated.
Yeah, it can't be replicated.
Because, like, when you think about these levels, like, they felt arduous and it really felt like a grind, and you really had to think, oh man, I have to get through this route. This is like the longest route. You want to get your potions up. You want to get everything up because you knew, okay, this is what the map looks like. This is how I'm going to get through it. This is the grass I need to avoid. These are the trainers, right? And there was a lot of planning involved. And when you got to the end of a route and you were about to go to a gym, like there was a sense of accomplishment. But now that you have these open 3D spaces and you can go about them in any direction, like you're just not going to have that same challenge, I feel.
Yeah.
Right? Like how do you, like now that I'm thinking about it with like Scarlet and Violet and all these games, like kind of fight people when you want to fight them, you know, and like and then there might be like a succession of trainer battles, but it doesn't feel like the same kind of like hero's journey.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a hero's journey because they took you down not a linear path, but you had to go through certain routes in order to get to the next area, and they give you through a bunch of challenges. With Scarlet and Violet, you can literally just fly past everything and go in any order because it's open. So yeah, it's just I think I enjoy the older structure better, and it's motivating that I have someone with me playing at the same time, even though it's not the same Pokemon game. So I like that. And then Ninja Gaiden, I am now I think chapter 7 or 8. Where
did you finally beat the wolf guy with the scythe?
That was cool. I actually
that was cool.
The
right?
Coliseum, and then like you beat him, and then all the other lycans or wolves come out.
Dude, I thought that was the best part, bro, because he was a hard boss, and then you're like, finally get like a breath of calm.
Yeah.
And then you like see this Coliseum, there's so many wolves, and then they all start rushing you, and you're just like, how long is this going to go on for?
So it got me because I thought it was just going to be a cutscene. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I put my controller down. I was like, oh, fuck. And then they do the thing where, like, you pick up the weapon from the boss, and then you have to fight with that weapon, which I was like, oh, that's cool as fuck.
And the weapon is sick.
Yeah, the weapon's sick, but I just didn't expect that. I was like, fuck. So I'm on the chapter with the next girl with a hammer. I forgot her name.
Yeah, some of the chapters where it wasn't Ryu, I didn't like them as much. Like I remember there was one girl in particular, and you have to fight these like this one red and
the twin
blue.
Yeah,
that was like my least favorite.
Well, so was the one with the hammer that girl? Is she better? Any better?
I don't remember. There was a couple of.
She seems a little slow. Like it's like really heavy swings, and I'm just like, ugh. So I took a break from that because it didn't feel the same. I'm almost like, do I stop because playing as the other characters? Maybe it's only a chapter long. Like I don't want to be slogged through another chapter of a different character.
So she's not that bad. There was also another one. I think she's the Dead or Alive girl with purple hair, and she's like a ninja.
Oh.
That one I didn't like as much because she was just way too quick. But they're really short. But I get what you mean. It does mess up the tempo a little bit because you're just like when you're with Ryu, like it's just getting better and better, right? Because like you're using the same weapons, like you're getting better at the combos. And then it's like, why should you learn how to get good with this one character? Because you're never going to use their moveset again.
Exactly. And, I did like, leading up to that boss fight with, again, the Lycan or the Wolf or whatever, it was 3 boss fights back to back to back. So it was a water dragon. Then immediately after is the skeleton with the soul that, like, builds up and you're, like, in a pile of bones. And then immediately after that, So it was cool that those 3 back to back to back. I can only imagine if you're playing on harder difficulties how excruciating it could have been. Again, I'm not playing
back in the day when you're on the 360.
Yeah, there was no adjustments to that. But now I'm like, okay, I can like suffer through this because it isn't as hard. I'm not playing on the hardest difficulty. So I think at this point where I'm at, I might just stop playing the game. I might play one more chapter because I really want to start playing Doom Dark Ages.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I don't blame you. Like, if you stop, to me, the game kind of dips down a little bit for a while after that. It's still good, but it dips down, and then it really just catches up back to speed like near the end because I think there's like. People who have played it remember there's like this one staircase level that's pretty cool. Okay. And then, I did feel like the last level, the last couple of bosses were pretty good.
Okay. So maybe I should play through it because I'm trying to stick to that mantra that you told me. It's like there's a game you just don't enjoy. Just stop, push yourself to do it just because, the sun.
I mean, honestly, and I guess this can be the next thing we talk about. There's just so many games to play.
Yeah, there's so many games.
And so I have really got into Doom. I've been playing it quite a bit. I'm almost done, actually. I'm on chapter 18 of 22.
Just come out? What the fuck?
I mean, I'm sure like there's people who have easily beat it in just like a few days.
How many hours have you put in this game?
It's honestly taken me a while because I have died a fair amount.
Which difficulty?
Probably at least 8. I'm playing on the hardest difficulty.
Nightmare.
I'm not like such a masochist, and I play on the one where like you die and you have to play the whole game again because I think that's ridiculous,
Yeah, this ain't Halo.
And the thing is, like with the difficulty, like it's Nightmare, and then as far as I know, every level beyond that, it's the same difficulty. There's just
adjusted.
There's no, it's all the same thing. The only difference is the penalty for death.
Oh.
So like the hardest mode is Nightmare, but if you die, it's permadeath.
Yeah, gotcha. Now, just for people that don't know this, two things. One is there's also the difficulty can be customized or somewhat highly customized, where you can adjust the behavior of, I think, NPCs and all this other shit. So even if you play a Nightmare, you can still adjust it to make it slightly harder. Also, there was a patch that was just released 2 days ago to make the game more difficult because many people within the Doom community have been complaining it's been too easy, even on Nightmare. So I don't know how it is to play it before and the after. You would know more because I think you've been playing both.
So, and this is funny, I didn't realize they patched it, and I was dying more, and now I put two and two together, but I don't think the patch was that dramatic. I guess my thoughts on Doom overall, I have quite a lot, both good and bad. You know, I'm actually a pretty big Doom fan. I was just thinking about like
Doom OG or Doom 2016.
2016 onward. I can't even pretend. I've never played the OGs. This might be a fun caveat, but I was just thinking earlier today about my favorite first-person shooters in anticipation of talking about Doom. So number one for me is Halo.
Okay.
No surprise. Number two is Half-Life. And number three was I really had a hard time deciding between Killzone 2 and Doom 2016, which kind of puts into perspective how much I really like Doom, right?
Both very different games, by the way.
Yeah. And I might have to give Killzone the slight edge only because I enjoyed both the campaign and the multiplayer, right? Sure. And for me, like Doom 2016, the campaign was better than Killzone 2, but I spent more hours in Killzone 2. I mean, I friggin' bought a PS3 for Killzone.
Well, and again, Killzone 2 gameplay was more tactical.
Oh, yeah.
But there was some weird thing about when you killed someone in Killzone 2 multiplayer, like it felt so satisfying. That noise, that like that, like weird, like
I don't know, like the way they kind of slowly found out.
They're just
that was really
as janky as it was.
And I did like the abilities. Like I remember, like I always picked the leader class, and then I have the like it was like a tactical spawn grenade or something. Okay. I had a blast with that one, and I like being able to control where everyone would spawn, right? Because it actually made me feel like the leader on my side for the match. But anyways, as an aside, I just brought that up to show how much I really like Doom, right? And I think out of the three, 2016, Eternal, and Dark Ages, this is the weakest one. But that doesn't mean it's a terrible game. I think it's a very good game.
Why? Because they've done more for the story and cutscenes than they ever have in the first two games. And you like story.
So here's the thing. I think if you're going to do something, do it well. If you do something but do it poorly, then you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
So what
and I don't think the story is very good in Doom. Okay.
Dark Ages.
Doom the Dark Ages. Okay. Doom has never really had a story, and like the story that it does tell, a lot of it is like the mythos, and it's just like a power fantasy, and it worked because you didn't have to think about it too much. But in Doom the Dark Ages, like they're introducing all these side characters and things like that, and they're really one-dimensional. There isn't really much to it, and I understand if like, okay, it's a power fantasy, we don't need the Master Chief and the Doom guy to have all these emotions. I get that, but when you have a scenario like that, the attention needs to go somewhere else, right? And so like for Halo, like there are good side characters in Halo, right? And it's just the mystery of the universe and unraveling that. And for Doom, the story focuses for me less on the mystery of the universe and more on just like the antagonist and like the demonic people and there's just no character that really strikes that strong for me. Okay. So like it's not a terrible story, it's serviceable, but it's just like I don't really know if it was worth it.
Okay, because they probably spent a significant amount of resources making this more story heavy. Because like when I think of Xbox, synonymously we're Master Chief and Marcus Phoenix. And again, Gears has been out of the picture for a while, but I just always associate those two. And I thought they were positioning Doomslayer in a way that like in the last several years, I'm like, if they can just make the right tweaks, he could be the third pillar, right?
I think with that said, like, don't get me wrong.
And this was the opportunity.
This is a solid game,
No, I know, but like, does it do any more for you for the character itself? Like, does this now? When you think of Doom, you're like, oh my god, Doom the Dark Ages, like that was the one that put it on the map.
The thing is, like, when I, with that said, like, I did get more interested in like the mythos and mythology and the story of the Doom world, and I watched a lot of really interesting like YouTube videos, and I just went on this whole rabbit hole. But most of the most interesting things I found were all from Doom Eternal. Like I never played the Ancient God DLC, but when I was actually looking at the story bits from the Ancient Gods DLC and really how the world of Doom fits together, I was like, oh my god, this is so fascinating. Like basically God created a bunch of people and then they imprisoned him and then he turned into Satan.
Oh.
It's such a fascinating idea.
Do you fight Satan?
Yes, that's the end. I mean, spoilers. This is like that's Doom.
And then you get those.
That's Doom Eternal.
And then you get those mech suits or mech suits, right?
Because this is all Doom. Eternal.
This is just the.
This is Doom Eternal Ancient Gods DLC.
Okay.
And so in the end, which I think some people were disappointed about because you're like facing God and like the fight was lame, and so they're like that's kind of disappointing. But just to put it into perspective now, like. I wouldn't say the story and the writing is absolutely terrible, and I'm happy they're going in this direction because I'm happy to see them try new things and flesh it out, but it's the weakest link for me. Like, if I'm just going from the story and the writing, it's like a 7 based off of the story and the writing. Gameplay-wise, I have to really give it up to them because they really have found a way to reinvent the game again, and the gameplay does feel really good. The first few levels did not really click for me because
probably not the full arsenal of.
Yes, because I feel like it's more of a drip feed. Like it took longer to get an assortment of weapons and abilities and an assortment of enemies to fight. While I felt like in Doom, I just got hit with, especially Eternal, I got hit with so many different enemies so quickly, right? And I think, and I was really thinking about this a lot. If it went from Doom to Doom the Dark Ages to Doom Eternal, I would have been very happy with the progression. But what I feel like happened and why I feel so torn and ambivalent about this game is I see ways in which the Doom franchise has evolved since Eternal, but in some ways it's backstepped ever so slightly. So that's why I can't say it's the best of the trilogy, but it's still a very good game. It's like looking at Halo 1, 2, and 3, and 3 is my favorite.
Yeah.
And 1 is the worst, but that doesn't mean I think 1 is terrible. It's just relatively speaking.
Yeah, relative. There's always the contextual part. So,
and I guess like one last thing I wanted to add in is the difficulty. I am really happy they beefed up the difficulty because it really is too easy. I can understand making the like entry level like gameplay experience like more digestible because it's very overwhelming. If you've never played Doom before, it is hard to get into. But in Doom Eternal, I played Ultra Violent. I think that's what it was, which is the second hardest, difficulty mode. And that was harder than Doom the Dark Ages at Nightmare, which is crazy. One step up.
Which, again, I don't think this is par for the course for id because they've done that to their prior games where they would adjust the difficulty after the fact. Yeah. So I think, like you said, they did it on purpose in the sense to get as many people as they can. And if the bitching was too much, like, all right, we know we're going to ramp it up.
Yeah.
And they've done that a week. So, and I give them props to that. They did it quickly. They weren't going to wait, so.
So the thing is, I think what Doom is Dark Ages is missing for people who have played a lot of Doom, like if you played Eternal, like I think that stepped up your shooting abilities in games. Like I
still haven't played it.
I have never played a game that pushed me to the edge of my shooter abilities the way Doom Eternal did because when I was in the last level, I really was thinking to myself, oh my god, I need a PC because just playing on my Xbox One on my old TV with input lag, I was just like, oh my god, like I'm really struggling here, And I was like, if I had a PC and I was good with mouse and keyboard, I could handle this.
Yeah.
That was the first time I felt like I ever felt that way.
That's crazy.
But then after you go to that and you're just having this nonstop dopamine rush and dopamine hit because like beginning to end in Doom Eternal, it's just like you have to survive. You have to fight like crazy. You never get a moment of rest. And then when you finally beat it, you're just like, oh my god, I'm a Doom god.
Yeah,
I'm so good.
It kind of feels like you're at an amusement park and you're just on a bunch of roller coasters with no brakes until until the park closes. It's like, wow, I made it.
Which, again, like pros and cons, like I like Doom 2016 the most of everything because it still felt like an amusement park.
Yeah.
But it still felt like something I'd go back to.
Yeah.
Right? Like it felt like, because we've been to Cedar Point quite a bit. It felt like going on the Raptor multiple times and then hitting Millennium Force.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like Doom Eternal felt like bouncing back between the Dragster and Millennium, Dragster, Millennium, Dragster, Millennium, and then doing both at the same time, nonstop, until your heart feels like it's going to explode. That's what it felt like for me. So that after you maybe that actually, after you go from there and you go back to the Raptor, then it's like, I'm not saying the Raptor is bad.
You're on phase.
I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying the shit out of Doom Dark Ages. I recommend it to everybody. But it's like, okay, but I kind of just did Millennium Force like 50 times.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's funny you say this because now it's starting to seem that Eternal is somewhat of a turnoff for me.
You would hate Eternal, dude. It's so much acrobatics and so much weapon juggling, and like you have to know every enemy and know what weapons will work, and you have to rotate through all your weapons.
Right.
And in Doom the Dark Ages, like this is one thing I am saying as a criticism, but you might see as a benefit. You literally find 2 weapons you love, upgrade them all the way, and you just stomp through everything.
Which I prefer that. So it is funny. I think when Eternal first came out, I'm like, why am I not playing this? I love Doom 2016. And dude, I'm telling you, I think I read and watched reviews that had that exact, not criticism, just concern. And I'm like, you know what? This seems so daunting. I'm not going to play it. So I am going to play Doom the Dark Ages first before I ever decide to even try Eternal. But I think that's going to be such a jarring experience.
I think you will love Doom the Dark Ages. Like, I think it will fit perfectly for you. Like, if you don't play at like the hardest difficulty, I think like the normal difficulty, I think they made some really smart decisions that make it more accessible. Like the shield, like you really feel like Captain America on steroids, and the way you can just continuously bash and like zoom around the battlefield really gives you a huge advantage. So I think that's a really nice thing.
There's definitely some bugs you were showing me yesterday where sometimes you throw the shield and
it's just not going far enough.
Yeah, it's clear like they need to fix it.
And then let's see. I think punching people to get your ammo back really helps because then you will be topped off on the weapon you're using a lot. Yeah. So you don't have to resort juggle, which was a huge pain.
Yeah. I love the fact that when you jump from a high enough place and it stomps,
everyone around you dies.
That is badass.
So epic. Let's see, what else is there to talk about Doom?
Well, another thing I want to bring up is, okay, based on where they're at, it's been 10 years now almost, like 9, right, for this franchise being reinvented. Do you think they should milk this franchise, or do you think it should stop right here?
So I think for sure, I mean, and this was a part of the leak, so we know that there's going to be DLC coming for Doom, the Dark Ages. I anticipate that they are going to have DLC that's going to be super hard. Like, it's going to be hardcore, and it's going to like build on the fundamentals of the Dark Ages the way Eternal did. For Doom 2016, it's going to satisfy people like me. I think that's probably going to be 2 years out. I think it's going to take them a while, because I think it took them a while for Ancient Gods as well.
Really?
And then after that, I do think they're going to pivot away from Doom, but they're not going to leave Doom completely. I think I can see them aspiring to be what Bethesda is, juggling between Fallout and Elder Scroll. Right?
So another IP potentially.
Yeah, and I think they're going to go to Quake.
I think so too. It just makes the most sense.
And the thing is, in this game, this is not entirely spoilers because it's in the trailers. There's a lot of Cosmic Realm stuff, which is really trippy and cool. Like, that's by far my favorite part of the game.
You think they can tie this in?
And I think Quake, from what I remember, is kind of more like a little more magical, like, a little different.
Was there a story to Quake?
There was. I never played Quake, but I was like randomly looking some stuff up. So there's definitely a story. But, I was reading online, like, some people think like, this is them just kind of testing out something, getting their vibe right. But
same world, but
honestly, I think that would be amazing. Like, if they took all their learnings from Doom and they went to Quake. They hit us with, Dark Ages DLC 2 years from now. In the back burner, they're working on Quake. That comes out 5 years from now, right? Which I think is the development time, honestly, nowadays. And then after that, they rotate back to Doom. I think that would be really good because, I'm after I get more DLC, like, I think I'm going to be good for Doom for a while.
Yeah.
And then, give it like 7 years, I'm going to want to get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way I look at it, it's like, it's been a good run. 3 games in 9 years with some DLC.
And they've all been fantastic games. They've all been different enough from each other. And, like, we don't get trilogies like this anymore.
I mean, and on top of that, their id tech is being used in other games. So it was used in Indiana Jones. So it's like they created a good enough engine from the start, like what Capcom did with the Resident Evil engine, and then they used it for a ton of games. So it's portable, it's reusable, and they, like you said, they cranked out now 3 games plus DLC in a span of 9 years. That's great for this environment. What I would say is
2 DLCs too, and those DLCs were basically like another game.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the way I look at it is, if they went to Quake next and then they pivoted back after that to Doom, we might not have the same people at the studio developing anymore. So will that touch still be there? Like, I don't know. You either reboot it or
they'll probably reboot it.
You know,
because to think about it, like they did the original Doom trilogy, and then now they did this trilogy.
Right.
And I think they'll probably wait another 10 years and do another one, and change it up in some ways, because unless they have more ideas, like I'm just wondering, like where else do you go from here? You know,
I mean, I feel like this could be a potential IP they expand into media. Like this would be a great animated show.
Oh, yeah.
This could be like maybe look. They at one point they experimented with multiplayer. Do they maybe make an offshoot live service potentially one day? I mean,
I wouldn't want a live service because I just feel like the live service bandwagon has come and gone. But you know, doing something like Helldivers, you know, like you know, a package like that, contained experience that's, you know, meatier and you know, is actually fully functional on launch, even if there's a price, you know, for it, like $30-$40, but then it's on Game Pass. That would be amazing. Like kind of like what FBC is doing.
Yeah, FBC,
that, you know, you take Control, base game, a couple years later, you are in the universe, do something a little different. I think that'd be amazing for Doom. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you brought up the fact that, like, there was the pillars of Microsoft, which was Gears and Halo, and now, like, you know, we were hoping Doom is the third one. Honestly, Doom can totally be the third one. You know, it's a different enough niche. There is nothing in terms of competition. Like, name one other first-person shooter that has a story.
Yeah.
And the only one is Call of Duty.
Call of Duty,
and,
which
right?
is
and that's
so
and
different
that's
every...
And that time, it's so annualized that it's just...
You forget it.
You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And, like, when I look at... Like, you look at the cover of Doom, the Dark Ages. Like, I look at that... Again, I look at Gears and I look at Halo. They're so iconic. Like, when I am starting to associate the Doom, the Slayer, with Xbox more than PC back in the day.
Totally. I think it can totally be their franchise, like, you know, their mascot. If I was Microsoft, I would be calling up the guy who made Devil May Cry and the anime. I think we were talking about this. Like, perfect fit. Yeah. Perfect fit, you know?
You know what's actually really funny? He just had an interview recently. And he thought at the time when he was animating Devil May Cry a couple years ago, he was like, "Oh, great! I picked this project because I thought I was reviving the franchise." So he was like, "I wanted to do it. It's been one of the things I've loved ever since I was like younger." And then he goes, "Capcom calls me. They said they're making Devil May Cry 5." And he's like, "Wait, what the fuck? You mean like a new one?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "So I don't get to revive this franchise?" So he was so pissed. So he said, "I would have done a completely different fucking show had I known." And it's like, maybe you could have pivoted to Doom.
So the thing is, like, if you're going to make Doom into an anime or a movie, it's going to be hard because it's the same problem that Microsoft had when they were trying to do Master Chief. Like, a character who's one-dimensional, which I'm not saying is a bad thing because it works in these stories, which is a, you know, power fantasy, hero fantasy, doesn't really have a character arc, works very well in video games.
Yeah.
But in a movie or an anime, like, you know, like if Doom Guy is never talking, you know, and
does he not talk in this game?
I mean, I don't think he said a single word, honestly.
Damn, they have cutscenes of him literally, and he still doesn't say a fucking word.
I mean, he's just dude, he doesn't need to. Okay, it's literally just him looking at things in a very intimidating way.
Yeah,
and just killing everything.
Come on, like,
let me tell you this. Like, when I was younger, I would look up random like YouTube videos where they're trying to compare like who would win in a fight, Master Chief or Doom Guy. After playing Dark Ages, I'm like, there's no way Master Chief would survive.
Yeah, he's definitely
longer than like 2 minutes. Like, this guy is so insanely OP, just so insanely OP.
That's psychotic, dude.
And like, kind of spoilers. This is kind of spoilers. Like, the game starts off by showing off this like insanely like badass, scary looking like demonic guy, and then the Doom Guy, you know, he's like watching the Doom Guy killing people on a hologram. And then, instead of being like, we have to find a way to stop him, or like, you know, screw him, he's killing everyone, I'm gonna go fight him. The guy's literally like, oh, we can't beat him. We gotta find a way to deal with him later. Instead of confronting this guy, let's just hit the humans where they're weak.
That's so funny.
It's like he's bad
for us.
He's the antagonist, and he's supposed to be all powerful. And he's just like, he sees like a video of Doom Guy killing some demons. He's like, nah, bro, I'm not even gonna mess with that.
That's actually not right now. Wait, that's how the game starts. Like what?
I think it's like the second level. Like
honestly,
it's like, nah, bro, I'm not even. But
then,
like, I mean, the story will evolve because basically, like, you know,
that's a
there's
problem.
There's other ways for like the antagonist to get stronger, and I won't ruin the story.
Sure, but like,
so it's not like.
Let me give a comparison, because you're right. This would be difficult if it pivoted to an animation or a movie or whatever show. The one character I can think of is honestly Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. So for the longest time, for like a decade and a half since that IP was released, Scorpion was just this like one-off, like, hey, he's just a killer, like he's always an enemy, never spoke. It was even in the early movies, one note, one dimensional. And they transformed him into a much complex character later on, in through animated short films, through the games, to the point where now Scorpion is one of the most favorite characters. And he has, dude, some of the latest games in Mortal Kombat 1, they show him getting married, that he's falling in love, that he cares about his brothers.
I don't know if you can do that with Doom Guy, because it's like they have went so out of their way to just convince us that all the Doom Guy knows to do is rip and tear.
Sure.
Rip and tear.
But that was the same with like Marcus Phoenix for the first like 2 games, until they were like, hey, you're married, you have a kid, you have you have a brother that died. Like, to me, they can do it. I don't want to say they're being lazy, but bro, like if they do another game,
you gotta get a good writer.
Yeah, if they get a good writer.
So that's why I was bringing up this guy, and I was actually gonna think about it in a slightly different direction. I kind of like the approach he's taken in Castlevania, or this is a random other anime, but we loved Hellsing Ultimate, right?
Yeah, I loved Hellsing.
And, you know, Dracula, right? And like Alucard, like you have a character who doesn't need a character arc. They're just really badass, and they are themselves. And the story is about how the world reacts to them and through the lens of other people.
Good point. That's
so, you know, and so that's Castlevania, right? Like Alucard is Alucard.
Yeah, Alucard's Alucard.
Like, but the story is all about, you know, all of the other characters, and they're like trying to find a way to stop that.
But let me take it back a step. Alucard still had a character arc.
Yeah.
With his father, and then falling in love with some people. Even though you're right, he was so OP, right? Yeah. And then he finally met his match in the.
But you know what I mean? Like, you know, I feel like in those scenarios, like the character can change a little bit, but like it's hard to just make the story 100% through the perspective of that character. You know, that's why a lot of these stories will have like another person. So like,
so you need a good supporting cast.
Yeah, it's like the Great Gatsby effect, right? Like Great Gatsby is all about the main character and his character arc, but it's told through the eyes of someone else for a reason.
It's the same with Master Chief sometimes. You get a bunch of ODST, or you get a bunch of Mark II, Mark IV, and then it's him. Like, so I think if they could evolve the story, maybe give him a supporting cast that he's working with other humans or some shit, and he's always there saving the day, sure, but it's like his team, or he's leading them, or I don't know. Like, they could...
So, I mean, I don't think I have a great Doom anime to pitch, but I think that's a really good place to go to. Hire the guy who did Devil May Cry Castlevania, because he will find a way. I'll be honest, that guy's very talented. I know he'll make it happen.
Like, I ain't being biased, but he is Indian, guys. And he's
represent, bro.
But like, here's what I will say. One last thing. Again, if they did an animation, they could expand the lore and story through the animation. They don't have to put in the core games. They can say, fine, the people that the supporting cast we introduced there doesn't have to be in the game.
Oh, and the lore is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Like the plot of this game might not be like the most amazing thing, but like the lore, when you really get into like who are the makers, like what is this cosmic realm, like what is the origin of the demons?
Yeah,
and
like
the Doomslayer? Dude, it's wild.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let them do all that explaining in a supplemental thing, and you don't ever have to bring it in the core game. But there's enough there for people to still be interested, then to check out the actual games and stuff. Yeah. So I think there's opportunities to expand this without creating more games in the near term. I hope they do that. This is a franchise that I think is worth investing in. So
yeah, but one thing I've been surprised about, and I know you mentioned this to me, I expected there to be way more than 3 million players.
Oh, yeah. So just to, again, as a reference, I think Microsoft or id just released these numbers. So about 3 million people have played Doom the Dark Ages, about 250,000 on PlayStation, 250,000 on Steam, 2.5 million on Xbox, and most of it's been through Game Pass.
Which is insane to me because, and back when they were saying the user base and how many people had played like Starfield or Halo Infinite or
like
Sea of Thieves, I was just like, oh, this is not that much. I remember like Halo Infinite hit 20 million, and then like I think it was 20 million. Then Sea of Thieves has hit like 40 or something crazy. And then like that was kind of my bar, right? And so to me, I'm just like, how is it only 3 million? Like I
Yeah,
thought it would have easily hit 5 to 10 million. Like
that's what I thought.
this, like to me, Doom is like a massive franchise, and like, bro, what are the PlayStation boys
Yeah.
playing right now?
I mean, see, this is the
Because
weird
Death
part.
Stranding hasn't come out yet. It's
Yeah.
been, like, what are you playing? You know, like maybe like they're busy playing Oblivion, they're busy playing,
Maybe, yeah, I
you
can see
know,
it.
or Clair Obscura, but like, it's not like there's a ton of PS5 exclusives to play right now.
Yeah,
So
I
I thought it
am
would have been,
surprised.
and I thought it would have sold like crazy on the
Yeah,
PlayStation.
you have to look at the segment that overlaps between Claire and Oblivion with this, and they're not. Maybe they're the same, maybe they're not. But I am shocked that like on PlayStation, at least 1 or 2 million people haven't bought the game.
Right?
But also, it's could be for the fact that the Game Pass marketing now is affecting this in the sense that hey, we had 3 bangers in the last month: Oblivion, Claire, and now this, and people are like, fine, we'll just buy $20 worth of a subscription to play all three.
I mean, I was just thinking about it, like even with the price increase on the Xbox, which is pretty wild.
Was it
But
like 25 a month now or 20?
well, no, I meant like the console, right?
Oh,
Like
sorry,
because
yeah.
the
Oh my
Series
god,
S is like 380 now, ridiculous.
ridiculous.
But honestly, this year has so many good games on Game Pass. Like if you don't have a gaming PC, and I mean, I don't think cloud streaming is good enough to play Doom. You know, some of these.
I haven't tried it yet, but honestly, I played the other like the first Doom. I tried it on
You
Cloud
tried it?
Stream, and it is good. It's like, dude,
I mean, I don't know. That's a pretty twitchy game, but you know, maybe you had a better connection than me. But anyways, like even if you were to buy a Series S, right? If you just add up all the games that have been pretty good hits, 75 plus, you know, from um, the beginning of the year until now, it's insane. The
yeah,
value is way over $400, $500.
yeah,
So honestly, like you could just buy a Series S and just buy a Microsoft subscription for a year
yeah.
and play everything.
I agree. I mean, how much does it cost for a full year of Game Pass Ultimate right now?
Well, it depends. Like I always go through CD Keys, which is totally legit. You know, it actually is not a hack. And if you time it, like you can get it for pretty cheap. Like I think I've been paying like $140 through
For a
CD
year.
Keys. Yeah.
I have a feeling that's going to slowly go away.
Oh yeah,
Like,
most
especially
definitely.
with, okay, you've already raised the console prices, and now games for Xbox first party are going to be 80. I'm telling you, by end of this year, next year, they're going to be like, oh, we're charging 240 or $300 for a
Probably,
year.
yeah. I mean, this is the whole plan, right? Like, you know, you get people in, they get used to the service, and then they can't leave,
Yeah.
right? Like Netflix, I'm playing for the highest tier of
Yeah.
Netflix. If you had asked me 3 years ago, no way I'd pay for it. But now Netflix has just become such a part of our lives that,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
you
pay
just
for
have
it,
to.
you know?
It's funny you say that because right, I'm still using the ad version of Netflix, and like sometimes it does annoy me. But you know, the funny thing now for me is I just walk while I watch stuff on Netflix. So even when there's an ad, I'm like, oh, I'm still walking. I've stopped, like, so
Yeah.
yeah, it depends. Like, I one day I might get rid of those fucking ads because I'll say this.
This is how they get you.
This is the YouTube. I got so sick of those goddamn ads. I had to pay the premium.
You
YouTube.
actually did?
I had to do.
God.
I was
Is it
so
worth
sick of
it?
this. Yeah, it's honestly worth it. The fact that I can lock my phone screen and listen to YouTube videos.
Oh, that's nice.
And fuck those ads. I am sick and tired of YouTube ads.
You know the thing that's really bad about ads, like it's back when it was just television, right? Like it would be mainstream for everybody.
Yeah.
Now it's these targeted ads.
Yeah, it's
bro.
targeted.
And they're like, oh, you know you want to buy this. You know you want to buy this. And they just keep sending it to you. Keep sending it to you.
I can't remember who this article came out somewhere. I think it was a week ago. I think it's Microsoft. I forgot who it was. They're experimenting with a version, with ads in such a way that when you hit, or maybe it's YouTube, when you hit the peak of the video, which is the thing that captures your attention the most, they're thinking about throwing in ads right there and then.
Oh my god!
So that way they have your attention.
I can so see that happen. That's a Microsoft move, right there.
If it's either Microsoft or Google,
I mean, that's
can't remember.
The future, man. That's the future. But yeah, I mean, I maybe have to get YouTube without ads too.
Dude,
everyone who has told me they've gotten it has not regretted it. They've always been happy with it.
And you know what's only $8 or $9 a month? I can live with that. Compared to Netflix, you're paying $20-some now a month for the ad-free version, right? Or whatever it is.
And I mean, this is a little thing, but when I'm writing, you know, I'll listen to lo-fi for hours in the background, and it is a lot. It's way harder to juggle that on the iPad because when an ad pops up, I have to do so much shuffling around to skip the ad. And I swear, maybe this is just me, but the ads I get on my MacBook and on my iPad are way longer. Like they've taken, I don't know.
That's weird, bro. I'm telling you, again, I caved because I got so sick of these goddamn ads. Like, I don't know. I won't go on any further with that. I thank God YouTube Premium haven't sent, but F you Google for that bullshit. Um, yeah, so maybe we can talk about some. I really want to talk about a show that we both finally finished, or I finally finished. I want to talk about You season 5.
Oh man, I was wanting to talk with you about this for a while, and then you wanted to talk about it. I said, no, Arjun, we're waiting for the podcast. So sorry if I was kind of mean, but I really have been waiting for your impression of You. So this is spoilers, right? It's going to be spoilers. So please, if you have not watched You and you want to know, you might want to skip ahead a little bit. Yeah. But we have been really wanting to talk about You for a while because season 5 series finale. We have been watching it for a while. I think we even watched one of the seasons together.
Yeah, I think we watched season 1 or 2 together.
So, and I mean, this it has a lot of overlap with serial killers and mental health and all that stuff. So it's totally in my alley.
Yeah, well, and also like I think this season for me resonated even a little more than most of the other seasons, and we'll talk about that. But like just to kind of to start with this, like. Again, series finale, I think it's based off an actual novel or a book.
Which I didn't know that.
Yeah, which I haven't read. So maybe I'll actually check that out to see how much it differs from it. But, I'll say this. The way this season started, like, I loved how season 4 went for the most part because the second half of season 4, again, it was split in 2 cowers or whatever we call 2 seasons, is that, it got to a point where Joe eventually said, or he was very ambivalent fighting between being a good person and a bad person. And he says it in multiple times in season 5. He's like, I had to kill to earn people's love, right? Yeah. And he kept justifying why he did to get that person, that the person next to him, that's partner, to like continue to love him, say, oh, you did this for me. But in season 4, he was so ambivalent because he was like, I want to be a good person. But you can maybe talk about this a little more. He had like a dual personality, and I don't know what they would diagnose him with.
Yeah, I mean...
schizophrenia, I don't know.
I think that's a big point of contention because I think Hollywood has really latched on to like dissociative identity disorder, which is like multiple personality disorder. And honestly, I think a lot of people argue on if it's like underrepresented or overrepresented. Some people say that really it's far more prevalent in psychiatric hospitals and psych overall. And we're just not diagnosing it enough, and we're like focusing more on like psychotic illnesses. And, the flip side, other people are saying that, like, it's kind of a social contagion. And they're saying that it's because of the way we see this and digest it in media. It might be influencing it and, like, it might be unconsciously causing people to, behave or act in certain ways, right? So, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of times TV and movies, they are trying to make things very visual, and so that's why they try and make this like split personality, like 2 people. I'm seeing myself and seeing another version of me and stuff like that. But I really think of it more as like a narrative device. Like it's a way for a person to like face their own demons and talk about themselves. And that was one thing I also liked about season 4, even though it was a ridiculous season.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So much ridiculous stuff happened, but you actually saw like a character arc for the main character, Joe, right? And I was like, oh, like he actually kind of has to contend with what he's going to do, like kind of like Dexter, kind of having to figure out what to do.
And you almost thought he turned a corner at one point. Like, oh, he's like, I'm finally done with this, like killing and like, I want to be good. But, he, not that he caves in, it's just that he has a moment where he finally relapses. And then he's like, I've accepted who I am and I'm going to continue killing. But at that point, he didn't really like grow and say, oh, people have to forgive me or whatever. He's just like, I'm going to continue killing. I've fallen in love with another person and I'm going to continue my bad patterns and bad habits. So I think one thing that was interesting, I thought in season 5, very, very interesting, because I wouldn't have believed it beforehand, but dude, insane. The way he was acting, specifically like when he killed, who was it? As he was doing his killings throughout season 5, I started to compare his actions in real life to Luigi Mangione, because at a certain point when he kills Clayton, right, the guy that's harming Bronte, because he's being catfished at this point, and then everyone's like, oh, he did it because he did it out of love. He's a good guy. Anyone would have done that in the situation. And I would have never believed it. I'm like, dude, I just don't know if that's really believable. But seeing in real life how someone killed a CEO, and then every person, well, not every, but a lot of people were like, good for this guy, and everyone was in love with him.
So I think like this is such an interesting topic, and like I love it when it pops up in movies and TV because it makes me think of Death Note, right? And when I was younger, and the first time I watched Death Note, I loved Light, and I was like, man, screw all these, people who deserve to die, like he should write all their names, and this will actually finally get us justice in the world, right? Like maybe I was really dark, edgy kid, I don't know. And then I got older, and now I watch it, and I'm like, bro, this guy's a selfish narcissist who is just trying to shut down all criticisms of himself and boost up his own ego by, basically trying to be the good guy, right? But really, he's just a selfish guy, right? And then it just hit me like a lot of people will latch on doing things that are societally right? But really, it's their own selfishness because they have to be the one who cleaned up the mess, right? It can't be somebody else. And I think, now tying back into you, like what the show did really well is showing that even when he should have had, like he had it all, he could have finally lived a good life, he couldn't. And it showed that deep down there was a maladapting coping mechanism that he never truly filled because he would try and always find the solution in love or keeping himself busy or, being someone's protector and all these different things when the root cause of the issue was always how does he experience love and give love, right? And the root cause was he just never felt loved. Right?
And there's a moment like when he's doing the interview midway through the season where he starts to actually break down when he's in the cage as he's thinking of Mooney. And like that's supposed to be a serious moment. And I don't think they portrayed it well, but like that's his trauma, that's his baggage that like.
That's the thing. Like if he just went to a therapist and actually started working through all these things, like it could have been different, But like he just had, it was his like narcissism. Like it was him like thinking, yes, I got this. I'm better than everyone. I'm going to outsmart everyone. Because I think in the first season he was even seeing a therapist, but it was under like false pretenses, right? But he
kills.
It's all different ways. Like by being such a narcissist and thinking he has everything figured out, he's like guarding himself from his own failures, his own hurts, his own trauma, his own betrayals, all of his stuff.
Well, I love the fact, again, the show, some people might think it's overboard, but I love the inner monologue in the show. The one thing they do great is he's explaining every action he takes, right?
Oh, yeah.
I love that because, like, when I'm living my day-to-day life, I feel like I'm talking to myself and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? So I love that.
And you know what I find fascinating? Dexter did the same thing. I was reading this book called I'm Not a Serial Killer. Same thing. I think when you have a character that is doing something that's morally questionable, the more you can get the viewer to see through that person's perspective in the mundane aspects of their life, the less jarring it will be when they do like a heinous act. Right? Because if you're an outside objective viewer watching this person and they're just doing something terrible, right, then it's going to be very jarring. And then you're automatically going to criticize that person. But think about how much time these shows spend, that person in their workplace, that person trying to navigate a relationship, that person trying to navigate social things. They have to build up all the aspects of their life, and then, you kind of can see the guy as a protagonist.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. So them doing that added to you sympathizing with him a little more, even when he would kill people, because you're like, he's doing it for the right cause. What another moment I really like in the show, and again, not that I relate to these moments, I could understand it a little better, is when near the end of season 5, he meets Bronte at this house. He thinks she's being like kidnapped by Clayton, who's this guy that she's been faking being like her old boyfriend. In reality, they met up online. And they have this really serious conversation, Joe and Bronte. And Bronte goes, it's kind of a lot that you're putting your happiness on me, like that burden. Like that's a lot for me to handle. And he's like, well, you're putting your happiness onto me and I've been handling it, And then she goes, well, what if you see like the real me if that mask comes off? He goes, well, prove me wrong then. So like, it's weird because she goes, she says it like, you have a lot of power over me. So it's almost like manipulative in a way where like, a lot of times when you try to save someone, a damsel in distress, someone that's been hurt by prior people in their prior relationships, because that's what Bronte was, and then the White Knight comes in and tries to save them and mend them and fix and heal them, it almost does feel like the person doing the fixing does have a lot of power over the other person. And I feel like I've been in some situations where I felt like that. So I understood.
But if you think about it, like if you're going to be the White Knight who's coming in and you're in a position of power over that person, then you have to think about like, how does that person feel or how has that person felt in prior experiences of having someone power or lord over them, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like if this person has had bad experiences with people who are aggressive or are being powerful and controlling their life, now you're coming in with good intentions and trying to help the person,
right.
but now you're being powerful, right? You're going to bring back all the memories of someone else because you're bringing back the emotion of what it's like to have someone else control your life. So that's the challenge, whether it's for good reason or bad reason, right? It's actually, we think of feelings as, it's just the feeling of anger, the feeling of happiness, but what does it feel like when someone else is in control of the situation, right? That's a feeling. Right? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's perfectly like fair because again, I feel like I've been in a position where even though I had good intentions for someone I knew, it triggered them to a point because someone with not bad intentions but didn't have their best for them in the relationship triggered that. Like, so I it really stuck with me. And then the flip side to it is when he said, "Prove me wrong. Like, even if your mask comes down, prove me that like I still can accept you for who you are and I don't see all your flaws." It was also another powerful moment where it's like, hey, if you think I'm great and you think I'm amazing, step it up and show me that you can be great and amazing too, because I already accept you for who you are. So that was also another interesting portion. There's always a flip side.
It's kind of that dance, of like them like starting to put their armor down and getting to know each other. And I think that's one of like the draws of you, right? Because it's so relatable.
It's so relatable.
Like regardless of like where you've been, like, if you've tried to, develop, some sort of relationship with someone, whether or not it went through or not, like you can relate with some aspect of, Bronte and Joe and things 100%. Like that. So I think those are the things they do really well. And so I have mixed feelings about you as well. And man, it got really bad reviews.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I think the shame in the show is, they had to show that Joe is going to go back to his old devices, even when everything is perfect in his life, because the root cause of the issue is something he's never addressed. Yeah. And as time goes on, like they started to make it clear that like, in the beginning, maybe Joe in the other seasons was killing because he really had to. It was, the best in the scenario, whatever, right? It was a little bit more justified. But as time went on in season 5, it became clearer and clearer that what he's doing has no ethical, backup. It's really just for him because he just could not let go. He couldn't stop. He had to.
His reasoning, he kept saying, "I would do anything for this family."
He had to be the protector. Like he looked for scenarios where he could be the protector, right? And then by the end, it finally culminated, where I was hoping it would. Because to me, again, spoilers, if Joe didn't get caught and get, busted for what he did, especially in that season, I was like, man, the show.
It would have just been like, how could he even have a happy ending at this point? The way
if Joe got a happy ending, I'd be like, man, I can't with the show. Yeah. This show is done.
Well, you could almost argue he still did because it's, again, twofold. A, look, his dick gets shot. Kind of weird, but maybe that was a fitting ending for him. I don't know.
It kind of was very ironic. It was very ironic.
He got his dick shot. But the thing is, he ended up in jail. They're not going to kill him. Bronte doesn't really want to actually end him, but he gets into prison and he has another monologue. And he goes, maybe the problem isn't with me and it's with society, because he's getting letters from people outside saying, do crazy things.
Well, I feel like that's the Ted Bundy thing.
Yeah,
right?
It's the Ted Bundy thing.
People come on, what this guy is about, and yet people are still interested and admire him and all those type of things, right? For different reasons, because it's actually a reflection of them, right? The reason they're admiring him is because there's something broken or missing in their life, and they're kind of it's like some sort of fantasy in some way, filling that. So, but I thought that was really smart writing and a really good critique of our society and our relationships. And so that was great. And I really liked Bronte's line of, I'm probably going to butcher the line in the end, where she was like, I always wanted to understand why it was that I was like so fascinated with you. And then I realized it's like dealing with, people like you, or like men who are like, powerful like you. It's like the fantasy of people like you is how we deal with the reality of people like you.
Yeah.
There's something along those lines.
Like that.
And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I never thought of that dichotomy of why is chivalry like this like dramatic gesture and romance and all those type of things, and think about all the, quote unquote chick flicks and like all of that, right? And yet, like, when you think about, we live in a patriarchal world, there's a lot of man on woman violence, domestic abuse, things like that. And yet, like, you have men who are like very authoritative and taking the lead in romance, but then there's men when they're abusive, right? And there's domestic violence. they're also taking the lead, right? And it's like, how do you kind of, make sense of those two?
How do you?
And I mean, I feel like I'm butchering it, but the way and the timing of what she said and when she said it, it just clicked, and I was like, "Oh, that's so insightful. That's a good line."
She also says something else too at that same time. She goes, again, it was a turning point for her, for a girl that had probably toxic patterns in dating men. She goes, how did she say it? She goes, now he's just going to be another asshole I dated, and that in itself is powerful. It's a very basic line, but it's just like, you know what? You're no one, Joe. So that's when she's getting rid of the power he was holding over her. And the second thing she says is, I don't know what's going to come after this, but I can't wait to find out and see how I grow, or something like that. And again, it's another hard hitting point for her, because she's like, there's still so much more to life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For as a person who got caught up in the same trap that he treated a bunch of other women and victims, she got out of it. And
I was so mad at her in the beginning for that, but then when those final scenes, I think really worked for me, because you understand why she couldn't let go and why she had to go the distance instead of just letting Joe die earlier. And so that that was insightful for me. We actually saw the character grow a bit, and I thought it was very fitting that the story for so long was from the male perspective, commenting on women and what women want and what they need and all those things. And then the end of the show is actually, this is actually what women want, what they need, things like that. So I felt like that was pretty fitting. So I like those things. My thing with you is, we're giving it all these praises. It makes us think. It's more insightful. Of course, it's from the male perspective, and we're two guys talking about it. So I understand. We're only going to see a certain part of the picture, but still, it is a good conversation to have and good points to hit. But why did they just do some of the lamest things? The most lame things you can imagine.
Hold on, before we get to that point.
The whole season down.
Before we get to that point. Sorry, just 1 second. One other thing that Bronte, or Louise, whatever the fuck her name was, says to Joe is, she pulls the gun out on him. Again, this was near the end. She finally goes, I know you killed Guinevere Beck. Just want to know how. Redact the lines in the story that you wrote for her. And then his son, he gets a call with his son, and his son finally says, no, like, your son understands and goes, you're actually the monster. And
I like that.
He breaks down, and then he goes, like, I can't believe this. He starts crying in the middle of having a gun pointed at him, and Louise goes and says, you're not the victim here. Like, you're twisting it and you're turning it. Like, you can't manipulate me again. I thought that was, again, another...
I like that.
Another problem.
This is what I mean. Like, there was so many like good moments, especially like near the end, where I'm like, oh man, this is good. And the way it's tying in, the way we're finally seeing the world like flip on Joe, and we're actually seeing him for who he is, and well done.
Yeah, and again, as a person that's either a narcissist or abuser, they'll gaslight a lot. Again, relatable, because someone who's hurting you, whether it's physically, emotionally, goes, I was the victim here, and I'm doing this to you because it's
Joe was like the best manipulator, bro. And I love that near the end, like, he's so crafty. Like, when he was trapped in the thing, and he's still trying to manipulate everyone on the outside. He's so good at it.
Yeah, the fact that the key in his
but now let's get to that. This is what I mean.
Yeah, like, so ridiculous.
The show just had so much ridiculous.
First of all,
twins.
Yeah, the twins. You cannot. Honestly, the whole twins thing. Killing your own sister. I thought for sure they maybe would have faked the sister's death.
God, the twin, everything related to the twin stuff, I was just like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do this?
And how could Joe convince her, even though she knew their triggers, in what? A matter of days, you convinced her to now become her sister? Like, that doesn't make no fucking sense.
And then why is it that they made the one twins, like, super powerful? She's kicking his butt, and then she just runs away like an idiot, and then he just knocks her out. Like, what?
Yeah, like, that was, like, dumb. And, like, you don't think she has cameras on the outside of her house? Like, that's... The catfishing...
Richest person ever doesn't have
cameras. The catfishing with the three people, so Louise and the people she meets on the internet, like, oh, yeah, we believe that, like, Joe is actually a bad person. And, like, the stuff they did, too, like, okay, Clayton's at a speakeasy or something, and he's, like, calling out Louise for a fucking stupid story, but, like, these people would know that you're faking and lying about this shit. You're on stage talking about a fake story.
And it's like, how does no one in that room...
Yeah.
It's just, like, it's just overly convoluted, you know? And it's, like... And I feel like the show was just trying to make it really convoluted because they wanted to make it like a detective story. And, you're, like, on your edge, what's going on, But it just got too convoluted for its own good. And it just, like, got to a point where, like, I can't take the show seriously if it's so ridiculous. Like, how in the world is any of this happening in real life?
Yeah.
And it's like, how does anyone, like, Joe is back in America, and like, how many of his girlfriends have died and their wives have died?
And how many came back at the end?
And like, and now, like, he is this superstar who everyone loves, and no one's like, other than these random internet like detectives, no one's like, hey, Joe, that's kind of weird. You know?
Like no one. And he's like, I just got a lot of money. Like, okay. Like,
and the answer is like, oh, well, I have a rich wife who made my name good for everyone. It's like, what?
Well, so and here's the funny thing. He has a rich wife, but his ace in the hole was this dude that he locked up in season 1 that can make him fake passports and can fake a boat death. He's like, yo, yeah, I was going to fake that.
This guy's just like the solution to everything.
Yeah, like that. You can't, like, that's a typical trope where you always have that one person on the side that can solve all your problems.
I know.
It's like, okay, again, a little too much.
And like, man, Joe was just like acting like an idiot, getting away with so much stuff. And like, there was like things that were like kind of obvious, you know, like, man, for someone who supposedly knows women and tricks people all the time, like, how did you not know that this girl who just snuck into your come on now, like, you knew she was up to something nefarious. It was so obvious.
Yeah, unless, again, and he's smart, so this doesn't like constitute a whole lot for it, but like, again, he changed from season 4 to 5. He says it, because I finally accepted who I am. But that didn't make you that naive, did it? Like, again, how could you have not thought that this person legitimately knew someone around you? So it's just like...
And then I think, like, for me, like, I mean, all those other things, yeah, I do think they're kind of ridiculous. I think the fact that he hid the key inside of him was really ridiculous, because it's like, okay.
It's like, how would you know to do that?
A, how would you know to do that? How are you not sick?
Yeah, B, how are you not sick? That shit is, like, covered in bacteria.
You can't just, like... Like, who are you? Like, who can just put a key inside them and never get sick?
Yeah, like, you get infected. Like, that that was a complete up the ass. Like, when I saw that, he just starts unwrapping. I'm like, you gotta be
and like, wait, and like, how many times has he had sex? Like, you're telling me no one looked at his arm and they're like, hey, Joe, why do you have this scar in this bandage?
So the way they play that off is it was that day that he got locked up in the box is when he put the key in, the morning of.
I guess.
So, and then when Bronte asks, like, oh, what happened? He goes, oh, I just slipped on some books. It's like, you fucking... Okay, this is retarded.
I mean, like, the thing is, like, the show does enough to say, like, okay, yeah, maybe this works, you know? You can kind of buy it. But after a certain point, with enough of these stack up, you're just like, okay, come on now. Like, the show is gaslighting.
Yeah, the show is gaslighting, yeah.
You know, because it's like, oh, yeah, he just cut his arm. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
Superman.
It's just one day, you know, it's fine. Yeah. He wouldn't get sick yet. He wouldn't get infected yet. But, like, add enough of these up, and I'm just like, what? And I think for me, like, the moment that just broke me is, like, the whole twin situation. God. And then all of a sudden, the one twin who should hate him calls him, and she's like, what should I do about the man I love?
And then wait. She says,
ever call him?
And she says it herself after she's with the guy she loves, and she goes, what can we do? Because she's like, I don't want you to kill him. She goes, work your magic. Like, it's an actual trope again. She goes, like, they know it's in the universe. It's a thing that he can talk people into doing whatever he wants. And she goes, he literally goes, okay, I'll work I forget how he says my magic. And then it's like, what?
So I just, you know, kudos to them to try and do the twin thing. But there's a reason why the twin and the evil twin is just this trope that you don't do, because it's like, oh my god. Like,
yeah, I agree. Like, I'll say this too, like, I want to know how the books deviate from the show. Like, how much did they actually go off the beaten path? Because I have a gut feeling that not all of this happened the way it happened in the book.
So with all that said, what would you give you out of 10?
The entire show?
No, this last season.
This season, man. So, like, okay, let me, again, just to give a little more context. When I first saw the first half of season 4, I was so disappointed. But the second half of season saved it for me. It was like, damn, like, second was just a completely different story. And it's like, I don't know, looking at everything and I've seen already bad in you, it's like, I'd give this, honestly, like, it wasn't the ending that I was hoping for. I was hoping for a redemption arc, like, he truly becomes a good person. A 7.
I'd give it a 7 too, because a lot of shows, they will consistently be running at like a 7, right? Or like, then I'm debating between, is it a 7 or an 8? But for me, it's like a clear 7, because the moments I hated were easily 5s.
Yeah.
The moments I liked were like 9s.
Yeah.
And so it probably averages out to a 7. Probably it averages out to like a 6.5. But
yeah.
I liked the show,
and
I was I was invested in the show, that it's a 7 for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you've gotten far enough in you've already seen 4 seasons, like, it's not like such a bad season that you shouldn't watch it. Like you absolutely need to watch it.
You need to watch it.
But I mean, yeah, the twin stuff is kind of ridiculous, you know.
The twin stuff is ridiculous, but not as bad as when like they met all those famous rich people in season 4 and they just killed them off one at a time. I think that was a little more ridiculous. But it was funny as shit.
So, and I guess, you know, segueing from that, I can talk about a movie that did the twin thing well. You haven't watched it yet, Sinners.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know there was twins in it?
I mean, the trailer shows there's two.
You know, maybe I'm just dumb. I did not notice that. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, there's two in the trailer.
The trailer, but
one's has a blue hat, one's a red hat, or something.
Yeah, and they actually did the twin story very well. Because the thing is, like, the twins were different, you know, and they didn't do the whole hijinks of like one twin is pretending to be the other, and who knows like, who is who.
Okay, put that aside. The twins and you were still different. One was just like more not masculine, just was a dick, and the other one was just like more.
So that's when it was okay. But then when you clearly could tell that they were going to do a twin switch, and then they did the twin switch, and then no one would have ever thought it was a twin switch. I was like, come on.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Come on, and it's like if the audience knows that this is so obviously going to happen, but the characters who are smart can't even tell it happened, even though they're supposed to know these characters, then it just feels like make believe.
Yeah.
Right. But in Sinners, like they didn't do that, right? And I really like Sinners. I think this might surprise you, but favorite movies of the year so far, I actually think it's a toss-up for me between Sinners and Lilo and Stitch. And I'm going to give Sinners my number one right now.
Wow.
It was way better than I expected.
Maybe I should check it out.
I love vampire movies, you know, and I've always loved vampire movies.
Blade.
Interview with the Vampire, love Blade. Interview with the Vampire is like my favorite vampire movie. I like 30 Days of Night. Blade was great. It's been a while since I've seen a good vampire movie. And this movie just struck such a good balance because it's, you know, a lot of times, like, setting isn't enough for a story alone, but for here, the setting really just did wonders for it because a large chunk of the beginning of the movie, I'm not going to go into too many spoilers because you might still watch it, but it really focuses on, okay, what is, like, Jim Crow laws look like? Like, we've seen a lot of slavery movies, so, like, we kind of know what to anticipate, but I thought this was, like, similar but different because we're looking at Jim Crow. Like, even though, like, racism is addressed in multiple points in the story, it's not like we're watching 12 Years as a Slave. It's not like...
So this isn't during the time where slavery is still legal. This is after that point, you're saying?
I mean, there's cars.
Oh, so, yeah, okay.
You know, I'm assuming it's 1920s, 1930s because there's, like, what looks like, you know, not the Model T, but, like, a few models after. So it's Jim Crow, right? Yeah. But it's, like, we're not constantly being hit in the head with like racism and racism is bad, you know, but it just permeates throughout the whole movie that like you get it without the movie telling you, like you see firsthand without being told all the time. This is what racism has done to the South, and like this is what it's done to the people, and it really like looks at, you know, like I think it's in Mississippi. I don't know where it is. It's like look at the state, look at the plantation, look at the people involved, both white and black. How does everyone fit together? What's the pros and cons? It does such a good job of capturing what the setting looks like. So that was really fascinating. And I almost, you know, I just got done playing South of Midnight, and so that had to talk about like Haynes and like Southern mythology and folklore. And now we have Sinners, and it's also talking about Haynes and Southern mythology and folklore. So that was cool. I really dig that. The action was good. The one thing I loved were the vampires. Like, they did a great job on the vampires because they struck a good balance between, like, vampires that are scary, right, and terrifying, vampires that are, like, manipulative and smart, and also vampires that are just trolls. And like this is what me and like my cousin were talking about. Like a lot of movies forget like vampires could just be trolls. That's and they could just be like hilarious because what do they have to be afraid of?
Yeah.
There are more
other than sunlight.
You know, and like so a lot of times like these vampires they're literally just dancing. And they're like teasing the person. They're staring at the guy. They're like, I'm coming to eat you. And then the guys, they're all scared. They're all like trying to figure out like, oh, how are we gonna kill the vampires? They look outside. Vampires are just singing and dancing.
Like, we're waiting for you.
They're just like, I see you singing and dancing. See you singing and dancing. I can't wait till I eat you when I learn your song singing and dancing.
What kind of movie is this?
Bro, I know it sounds ridiculous, but then it's like they're trolling and then they're like terrifyingly deadly. So I love that. I think the ending was great. Like it stuck with me emotionally as well.
Again, for those that don't know, Ryan Coogler directed, and I think even potentially wrote this. So the person who made and directed Wakanda.
I didn't realize that, and I like looked all that stuff. I was like, yeah, like he's done a lot of movies, and I guess like him and Michael B. Jordan are tight. Yeah. You know.
He was also in Wakanda.
Yeah.
Or Black Panther, and just another thing, like they did a whole marketing thing I saw online prior to the movie being released, where Ryan Coogler talked about the types of film he used to film the movie, and it blew up to the point where now like so many people are like, oh, Ryan Coogler's a really cool guy. So like it was a really good marketing thing they did.
I didn't realize
He's like, oh, here's 40 mm, here's 70 mm, and I'm like, wow, he speaks in such an interesting like way.
And the film was filmed so well. Like all the scenes,
I'm not surprised.
You know, it looked great. You know, like when they're driving down and you see cotton fields, you're like, oh man. And like even little touches, like, you know, they don't have to show you.
The way you said that, cotton fields, oh man. Like
they don't have to show you people like bleeding and broken and tired. All they have to do is like they show these endless cotton fields. They show you a snapshot of the ground and there's like tiny twigs and branches. They show you the character in the next scene and they're barefoot. Mm. And then the next scene is just them having a conversation. They don't have to go into the depth of how much pain is this person in, you know, their suffering, their heartache, but you can see it. It's visceral. You're like, oh my God, I wouldn't want to step on there with shoes and this person is barefoot. Yeah. And then you think about that and you're like, oh my God, like all of the ways their life must be if, you know, that's what their life is like. It's such subtle thing, but well done.
He's a good filmmaker, Ryan Coogler, by the way. Yeah.
So that's why I loved Sinners. I mean, it's not a perfect movie. Again, I won't go into spoilers, but near the end of the movie when the antagonist and the protagonist are fighting and, you know, how that kind of culminates and finishes, like basically the climax of the movie, massive letdown. It was so lame. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh my God, like this was terrible. And so that's like the one, you know, down road I have, one thing that let me down. But otherwise, I was pleasantly surprised. It's so far the movie of the year for me.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'll check it out, and then just to get an understanding of it.
It's probably going to come on Prime or something like that. Sure because I think it's on video on demand, so probably in a month and a half.
Okay.
You might not like it as much as me, but like I've always loved vampire movies and zombie movies, and I feel like zombies have gotten a lot of attention. And vampires haven't, because there was like the whole Twilight era of vampires, and then like you didn't really get these like troll or deadly vampires for a while. And so this was so refreshing for me to see. Okay. And like Redfall was a disappointment. I have to wait forever for Blade. You know, the game would come out.
At this point, it's basically almost been confirmed Blade's been canceled. The movie,
yeah. And so the game is still coming, right? Yeah. As far as we know, but that's going to take a while. So there hasn't been anything that's really filled that like that niche, that desire to watch a good vampire movie. So that's why Sinners was just great for me. I really like that. What would you say is your movie of the year? Is it one of the movies we watched recently?
So two movies that I watched, one with you and I think one without. Final Destination and then Thunderbolts. So I want to talk really quick about Thunderbolts. So another movie that I felt like really resonated with me to some extent, not completely, but like for those that don't know, again, spoilers.
You can spoil it for me. I'm not going to watch it.
Okay, I'll spoil it for Shammy over here too. But as soon as the movie launched, they basically retitled the movie, and it's now called The New Avengers. So this ragtag group of people that we've seen in prior movies all come together and work with each other.
Have they all been in other movies before?
Yeah, they've all been in other movies and shows, so at one point or another. So they've just been broken characters, the way they've all been described. So Yelena, who was Scarlett Johansson's quote-unquote like adopted sister, because they were both part of the same like program back in Russia when they were growing up. So they know each other really well. They considered each other sisters. You got the Captain America hack, who's in like the last show called about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, basically, and he takes over the mantle, and he ends up killing someone that's innocent in the show. So he has to deal with the fallout of that and the public opinion, and so much to the degree that his wife and kid leaves him because he can't even focus on taking care of their family. You got the Red Guardian, who's a no one right now at this point. He used to be the Soviet Union's like prime like hero, and then now that there's nothing for him, so he has no life. He has a taxi service, and then you get Bucky, who is running for like being a senator, or something. So he's changed like completely. And then there's one other hero. Who am I missing? One other person. And then what they end up doing in this movie is they introduce a new hero. His name is the Void or the Sentry. He has two personalities. So he's gone through a lot of depression throughout his whole life. He's basically no one. He's convinced to take or participate in a program in like Thailand. And this program basically ends up failing. It kills a bunch of people, but surprisingly, he's the only one that survives and he gains a bunch of superpowers. And to the point where he has the power of 100 suns, I think is what they quote unquote say in the film. So he's technically stronger than most Marvel
heroes. So he's
heroes.
pretty OP then.
Yeah, like he's basically powerful than almost all the Avengers at this point. Like, and again, I don't know. They don't.
But what does he do? Like, does he shoot laser beams and stuff?
He can fly. He's basically like Superman times 10.
Is he actually a character in the comics?
Yes. So what doesn't make sense to me is they don't describe the procedures they performed on all these people. So I have no idea how a random company got the ability to
make someone that powerful.
Yeah, make someone that powerful. But what they end up dealing with is when he becomes very depressed, the Void comes out and he just starts killing a bunch of people. But in reality, he's sending a bunch of people into a different realm that like they have no idea what's going on. And so to kind of save this person, because they start to connect with him throughout the film, and he's like actually a decent person. They meet him in that other realm and they're like, look, we know you're suffering. We're here for you as friends. So like the one good part was like, they basically try to show that like,
So was he the antagonist?
He's basically the antagonist. The person that gives him the powers is also in the film, but like she's really a nobody. It's really him, and him trying to stop him from killing like everyone.
I mean, that's kind of a fascinating idea, but I think this goes to like my Marvel problem. This is what I wanted to talk about. Like Marvel is just gotten too convoluted and too complex. And I think the reason why Marvel worked so well before is, okay, Iron Man, easily digestible story. Right? And most people know enough culturally, because it's like a pop icon, that they can just like, get right into Iron Man and enjoy it, right? And then the next step up, Captain America, that hit for people, right? I don't think like Captain America did anything revolutionary, but it hit like the common tropes that people love and did it well enough. I'm not the biggest Captain America fan, but I think, it did it well enough. You have another good hit, and then that was enough to bring Thor in, bring the Hulk in. You have a good team, good base. Then you branch out from there. And, like, to me, like, the reason why Marvel was so fascinating is, like, you got your main team. They're cool, and you're just like, all right, like, what if this guy just joined in? Ooh, what does that do to the dynamic? Ooh, what if Spider-Man joins in? Ooh, what's that going to do? Ooh, what if Black Panther's here? What if this person's here? You still have your core group that you love and you identify with, but now you have another person with a different personality that's going to riff off the main people, interact with them, join the team, and then bring something new to the team, maybe some pros, some cons, change the dynamic slightly, but the core is the same. And then that's how you just grow. And then there's one big bad at the end of it all that you're looking forward to that keeps you in focus. That's the key word, focus. And that's what Marvel has lost because, you lost all those people, and those are the iconic people. Like, you can't expect people to, like, see Shang-Chi and then see, all these other, like She-Hulk and all these people and, like, be hyped for them in the same way as Iron Man and Thor and Captain America.
Yeah, like, I look at, again, these new Avengers. They can't carry a film on their own.
Right.
And against any big baddie, they all don't have powers other than the Sentry.
So then it's like, what's the point? Like, now they're making movies, like a lot of these movies to me, it's like they're only going to serve like the real comic book fanboys, like, and fangirls who really love this stuff. And they're just happy to see the people that they saw in comics on the big screen, right? But like the casual audience, which is what helped these movies make $1 billion, $2 billion, they're just going to be so overwhelmed, and they don't really know when to jump back into Marvel.
I agree right now. We don't know when to jump in. And like the film before this that came out in February with the Falcon, whatever his name is. I forgot what the movie's name. Oh, Captain America: Brave New World. So basically, Sam Wilson becomes the new Captain America, and what they hint towards the end of this film is that Sam is forming his own team of Avengers, and I don't know with who.
So why are we going to have two Avenger teams?
So you have two Avenger teams. Both probably have no powers whatsoever. And then, you know what they're really setting up for? The Fantastic Four. So the Fantastic Four.
So now we're gonna have a third team.
You have a third team, and I'm sure the Fantastic Four will just take over and become the leaders because they have the powers. They were going to fight with all the cosmic beings.
And the thing is, if you have such a power scale to like now you dealt with Thanos, you know, you have to have very strong protagonists and antagonists going forward to make it feel meaty.
Yeah.
But if they're too crazy, then people get lost in all these superpowers.
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
It's so okay. The way I see it is, Fantastic Four will be the leaders of the Avengers because in the new film coming up in July or June, they will be fighting against Galactus.
And you know that might be the reset and like the place for people to jump back in, because I was just thinking about it too. You know, if no one knows when to jump in, you can't make a game and like a movie that's so conclusive and so like central to your next plans, because if everyone isn't jumping in then they'll lose track of things, you know? And so then it's like you can't have the New Avengers be the start of everything going forward and you're planning in advance, but if New Avengers doesn't do good, then no one really knows where to start. So then why would anyone watch New Avengers 2 or all the things that are connected to it? And so you need like a pillar to come back and bring everything in. Me personally, you know, I think the smartest thing, this is what I wanted to talk to you about, I think the smartest thing would have been to start with Spider-Man. Like, you know, I wouldn't have went the Fantastic Four route. Like, what I would have done, right, was, you know, to me, I think people love this when it happens, and it gets like, gets the hype going. Like, what if they had like a completely self-contained story? Maybe it could be Fantastic Four, but I was gonna think X-Men, because X-Men has been common enough, right, that people know all the characters. I don't think everyone knows the Fantastic Four characters, right? And we know that there's been a change in hands. You start off with a whole new cast of X-Men characters, but I mean, they kind of screwed that up because they already had some, and then, you know, it got complicated. Yeah. But if they had done that, you get this whole like arc with, you know, X-Men, and you think it's a self-contained story, but actually that ties back into a bigger story. And then you have Spider-Man, which is somebody that people know, bring everything back, and you actually think that like these threats that you thought were the big bads in X-Men are actually just big bads in the whole universe.
Yeah, it's funny you say this because I think they have an idea and they're somewhat on the right path, but execution is part, because for those that don't know, there's 2 more Avengers movies coming out, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Now, they just announced that both of those movies have been delayed. Okay. So originally, Doomsday was coming out May of next year. Now it's coming out December of next year. So
how is it going to be done in time?
I don't know.
They just started, didn't they?
Yes. So what's happening now is right now a new Spider-Man movie is slated to now air before Avengers Doomsday. Before it was going to be Avengers Doomsday, then a self-contained Spider-Man movie. Now it's the opposite. So they're going to have one chance to...
You think it's a self-contained Spider-Man?
I don't think so.
There's no way.
I think it's going to be another multiversal bullshit.
And the thing is, they got to stop with this multiversal stuff. Yeah. And I think what they're trying to do is like explain it all in a way where it ties together. I think they just need to ignore it.
I think they should ignore
it. They've done too much multiversal stuff. Like, then you think of Loki and all of those things, and it's just too much.
It's too much because the story has spiraled out of control. So any new film that comes after Loki...
Unless they have like one way of tying it all together in one movie, but that's going to be so hard to pull off, and it's going to be too complicated. I would ignore things. And the reason I also thought it would have been smart for them to pivot into Spider-Man and build from there, that's where Endgame ended.
Yeah, that's right? Where it ended.
The whole thing was passing of the torch to Spider-Man from Iron Man. That is the natural way of progressing forward.
They fumbled it.
And then they fumbled it with all this multiversal, crazy, 80 different stories because they wanted endless content for everybody.
They made this new Spider-Man film, a couple years ago, and then it did catch the eyes of a lot of people. You have 2-3 Spider-Mans in a film. Cool stuff, but like I don't think you should have gone that route just yet.
Well, I mean, they were doing the nostalgia play, which is fine. They made a lot of money, but like the thing is, you did the nostalgia play to tie in all the prior Spider-Man movies, right? And like, look, you know, I think Spider-Man has been kind of done to death. I love Spider-Man. Like, everyone who knows me is my witness. I do think there's been a lot of it, but look, if you really wanted to make a bunch of movie with Marvel, and money, and you needed a way to pivot, you should have pivoted to Spider-Man because he is the natural person you set up.
So now that they haven't really done that, and I don't know what this film next year for Spider-Man will really be, even if it's a self-contained, it's right before Doomsday. So then you transition from that to no arc and then throwing everyone there. So what I truly believe, and I think you were on a good path here, was X-Men. But here's most likely what's going to happen, is based on already rumors and a bunch of stuff being filmed right now. There's a bunch of X-Men already in Doomsday, and they're going to reset and pivot to X-Men after the two Avengers films, which is unfortunate because it's a good and bad thing. I think they need a fresh start, and I think X-Men will pave the way for the next 5 to 10 years. I really do. Man. But I think if they led X-Men into these two films, would have been so much better. But I think it would have taken them too many years to set that up.
Yeah, I mean, if they, you know what they could have done? They could have just made all these self-contained. They could have made Fantastic Four feel self-contained. And they could have made X-Men feel self-contained. And then they could have used Spider-Man and started a new trilogy and started building up.
Yeah.
And then there was the first movie and then maybe the second movie. But then all of a sudden you realize, oh no, the second and third movie is actually Avengers Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, all of this stuff has actually been tied in. Everyone's going to go back and watch the old movies now. And then, like, a clear point of starting because you're like, okay, Fantastic movies, onward. X-Men, onward. Spider-Man movies, onward.
Yeah.
And then they all converge. Together.
And I think it's a shame because, like, I think Marvel felt the brand damage, the brand reputation, all just because the last several years, everything has been so poor quality. They're just like, how do we get people back into their seats? Because you can tell all their films in the last several years have not made a whole lot of money.
And the funniest thing to me is like, they know how bad it is because the Thunderbolts, like the biggest selling point I saw in the commercial to make me go watch Thunderbolts is it's the best rated movie that's come out since Endgame.
That's sad.
Which they're basically saying, hey guys, we know we've been pretty trash for a while, but give this one a chance, even though you don't really know the Thunderbolts.
Like the way, I won't lie, the way the movie is written is, I don't want to say even written, the dialogue between the characters is good. There's real good play off each other. Like the first time in a long time in a Marvel film, I'm like, wow, this seems believable. But again, I think when they announced the two Avengers movies recently, they were so premature. They're like, things will just flow through and we're going to have the Russo brothers come back and they're going to write an epic banger and they can take a fucking mess, a spaghetti mess, and just fucking make it.
I hope they do something because, and how did you go from like Shang-Chi to like Doctor Strange 2, which felt like they were kind of connected and going somewhere.
Yeah. And then,
what happened?
And like, you can't even get the new Blade movie off the ground. They're basically confirmed at this point it's probably not going to ever happen. Waste of a talent with Mahershala Ali. This guy is even helping in writing the goddamn story, and you can't fucking do it.
I never, after I saw how successful all the Marvel movies were, and look, I was kind of a Marvel hater, and I'm overall a bigger DC fan. But the thing is, I love Endgame and Infinity War, and back at that time, I was like, bro, Marvel cannot miss. I'm like, all of their movies are interconnected. There's like 18 of them, and somehow you're getting people like my sister and people I know who are not into this stuff excited to see like random Marvel movies,
like
random Marvel characters. How did you screw this up?
Yeah, dude. First of all, let me just say this because you mentioned earlier, we still don't have a sequel to Shang-Chi. What the fuck is going on?
I know. It's like this is a classic example of not knowing your audience because your audience does not want. You took a bunch of like people who are not hardcore, and they're you can call them like casual and not massive comic book fans, and you made them super interested in comic book stuff that they may have thought was super nerdy and they're not into it, and it's because it was cool, right? And then it stopped being cool because it was too convoluted.
Yeah, it's too convoluted. And again, you make up another good point. Was like 10 years ago, very casual fans were talking about Marvel. Like my family knew about it. My parents, they're like, it was weird. Like shit, it was so crazy. Again, when it becomes a phenomenon and you can get people talking about it, that people that normally don't watch and read this shit, like you've done a good job.
Yeah. And that's what I was so amazed about because growing up, like everyone loved Batman, everyone loved Spider-Man, but like to me, like I didn't know all of these Marvel characters. Like I didn't really know Captain America. I knew Hulk, but that's because of the video game, right? And like some of that stuff.
Well, I think another problem you're going to have here now going forward is even though you got Robert Downey Jr., the guy that played Iron Man, how are you going to show to millions of people that this is the same old dude from the prior films? Because clearly he's not. And even if they find a way to tie it in that he's a variant because of the multiversal shit, are you going to show half the film with him without the mask becoming Doomsday?
I don't know what they're going to do.
Like, so I don't understand.
My only hope for this is, I think the Russo brothers are fairly competent. I know they've had some misses and things like that. Mm-hmm. If they're going to double down with him, then they have to be confident. Well, because either, it's one thing if you're like semi-confident, you might try and do something that's careful, right? But if you're going to do something like that, where even before everyone is going to have questions and criticisms and everything, you have to be incredibly confident. And that either is going to translate to incredibly confident because you got something amazing, or incredibly confident and you're an idiot. And you're going to do the worst thing. There's no in between. It's a 10 or a 5.
Look, I think you're absolutely on point because, first of all, the only reason why Marvel and Kevin Feige is now confident is because they're paying them a shit ton of money. So they're paying Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers like close to over 100 million plus for just 3 people.
Goodness.
And they're saying, if we're going to give you this much money, you have to write us a banger. And they said, okay. And then the Russo brothers said, we woke up one day, we thought of a great idea, and we just knew that this had to be the next Avengers film. Sure. But like you said, it can be a hit or a miss. And you know how I know that? It's because they did the same thing just recently with fucking Wolverine and Deadpool. And you know what fucking Hugh Jackman said? He goes, one day I woke up and I just had an amazing idea and I went to Ryan Reynolds and I said, we have to do something. Guess what? That movie was absolute dog shit. I don't care what anyone says.
I liked it, but I'll say this. It was funny.
It was funny.
But there was no substance to it.
Yeah, there's no substance. So you can't tell me that he woke up one day saying, yeah, I really want to pay homage to Wolverine by making this piece of shit film.
I mean, I think I look at it more positively than you because I had low expectations for the movie. If I saw a movie that just made me laugh, I was going to walk out of there very satisfied. I was kind of disappointed because I was hoping they would use this to clear up some of the Marvel nonsense. Yeah. And they didn't. They made it worse. But at least I walked out of that movie genuinely laughing and happy.
Sure. But like that wasn't what I was hoping for because we've been waiting for a true introduction of X-Men into this universe because there's been nothing again of substance. And they could have did that. But what did they do at the end? They go, hey, are you going to be back? Wolverine goes, nah. And then he just walks away. Like,
what Arjun, be honest. Were you laughing during the end?
Yes, of course
that was epic.
Of course I was. But that's not the point. I'm not going to Marvel films anymore to fucking laugh, motherfucker. I'm going so they can set up a whole goddamn arc because we're getting Doomsday a year after.
Yeah, I get you. I get what you're saying.
You cannot, like, dude, I'm telling you, there's already been pictures on set with Ian McKellen back as fucking Magneto and they got Xavier, all this shit. You're just going to start off with the first 10 minutes of them just fighting Sentinels and shit and be like, oh my god, this is all in the same universe. That doesn't help me. What are we doing here? I don't understand.
And sync, Arjun.
Dude, I just don't understand. You can't tell me that the Fox shit that happened 15 to 20 years ago is the same universe.
I wonder if Hugh Jackman like woke up from a dream and he was dreaming of Deadpool just beating people up with his dead skeleton.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Because I'm saying.
I have to say, I never, ever would have thought of that idea. It's such... And, I was actually listening... I feel like I always randomly talk about Brandon Sanderson, and they were talking about, like, humor and what's funny in one of their podcasts, like, for writing. And he said that, like, what we find funny is unexpected. Like, a lot of comedians, like, the reason they swear, they talk about sex or they talk about stuff is because, like, we don't anticipate it. We don't expect it. It catches us off guard. So, beating people up with the skeleton of Wolverine is so unexpected. It's hilarious.
I mean,
and you would never expect NSYNC to be playing in the background, right? But that's like the humor, right? But anyways, I digress. I really like that scene, but I'm with you, like it didn't really change the Marvel problem.
Yeah, it didn't change the Marvel problem. And again, they had opportunities. So
and that was a good opportunity for it because all the casual fanboys were going to see that movie.
Yeah, I agree. And that specifically is they had a lot of people watching it. It did really well. One of their better Marvel films in terms of financials. So here's what I will say is if the Avengers films flop, because I actually think the Russo brothers think they have a great idea, and it's going to be a 5 out of 10.
Didn't they do that Electric State movie or whatever on Netflix?
Horrible.
And like that was a bomb.
Yeah. So I think these will fail, but I think knowing Kevin Feige and Marvel, they go, you know what? Even if this flops, it's okay. We have a lot of money. They're like Microsoft. Fuck it. We'll waste the money if we have to. We try. And you know what they're going to do? They'll pivot really hard into X-Men. And going forward, X-Men will be the new Avengers for them. And that's it. And they'll fix all of it.
I mean, the thing is with Disney, for as much as people hate on them, like, if you look at the studio that's made the most money every year, it's still Disney. I think there was only 1 year that they lost to Universal. I think that was a year with Super Mario Bros. And if I'm remembering correctly, they only lost by like 100 million or 200 million. So they're still printing money.
Yeah.
Even though like Snow White flopped, they're making their money up one way or another. And I guess that takes us to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is Lilo and Stitch, which I know you haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And so me and the wife saw it. She absolutely adores Lilo and Stitch, and me too. I think it's one of the things that connected us together, and it's kind of been like one of the pivotal things in our relationship. So I think on her first birthday, I want to say, I bought her like a bunch of Stitch stuff, and so it's always had like a dear place in our hearts. And we had to watch the remake, and right afterwards, we watched the original, back to back, and it's so fascinating. You really have to watch them because this is one of the better remakes, honestly, and this is one of the few examples where I think the remake does things better than the original, and the original does things better than the remake. I think they complement each other.
Interesting you say that because someone posted a clip on X, and they did this comparison with this one really important point in the show, the cartoon show, and then they showed the comparison in the film. It goes, it's the point where Stitch is about to be thrown out by the older sister, and then the little girl says, "Ohana means family, and family never gives up or leaves like people behind." And then she guilt trips her older sister into keeping Stitch so that they can take care of Stitch. And in the movie, they're about to have that same conversation. She goes, "You need to stop acting like a child. Like this is reality. You're practical."
But this is, I think, like people are trying to share. They're trying to twist things in a way that it creates a certain narrative. Because that same scene happened later. Like they shuffled things up.
Yeah.
The same scene happens where she's like, Ohana means family. Family means you never leave anything behind.
Yeah.
As a manipulative way for the sister to accept it. It's just shuffled up and it's in a different place.
That's so funny.
And so, but if you take them, if you take all of the scenes, one by one, if you share them, like there is going to be things that are way better in, the original, no doubt. So I can kind of tell you a little bit about what I think is, better in one or the other. The original was a lot more condensed, and I think they did a lot. They were much better at showing, not telling. Right? It was so subtle, and it focused a lot more on Stitch. It made Stitch a more fleshed out character. He was more multidimensional. He had a better character arc as well. While when the new one, he's more like a child or a pet. And in the original, he seemed more like someone who's unloved, who has a lot of different emotions. Like you could just see it more. And I think like one of the best ways that was shown was like the story of like the ugly duck. And I totally forgot about it, but the wife remembered because she's seen this movie like a million times. She's like, I can't believe they didn't include the part of the ugly duck. And because like that story has so many parallels to Lilo's life and Stitch's life, and both of them, take that story in a different way without even having to spell it out, just by reading the story out loud and showing Stitch and Lilo in different parts of the movie, like the audience just automatically gets it. That's like, to me, one of the best forms of writing where like, it's just subtle, and the original does that so well. And so that's one thing I loved about it. I don't think it came over as well. I think the alien characters are way better in the original. It's not even close, I think.
Didn't they leave out the one big alien?
Yeah, they left him out too, which I thought was fine. I mean, I love that character, but I think they, Jumba is like the big alien with like multiple eyes.
Yeah.
They changed his character a little bit to make him the main villain, and I thought it was fine. It got the job done, so that was okay, and I can understand why they cut him. But the downside was Jumba just does not sound right. He sounds kind of weird, and both of them just didn't seem like the same character, and they were changed enough that it felt eerie. It was like uncanny. And the thing is, like Lilo and Stitch, there's minor changes, the sister minor changes, but it wasn't enough that the characters felt like different people. But for the aliens, they were changed enough that they felt like different people, and that's why it was kind of eerie. And overall, I don't think they were as strong. So that's, to me, the weakest part of the movie. And I get what I was listening to, what the director and the writers were saying, and I get it. Like when you switch from animation to live action, you can't just do a one for one, right? Because I think when we see things in animation, like unconsciously we accept the fact that the laws of the world are different, right? So I'll give you an example, right? In the original Lilo and Stitch, there is a scene where like the sister sees like Stitch like attack the two aliens who were dressed up in wigs as humans, and apologizes to them. And then she's at work, so because her pet attacked these people, humans, she left her job because she was going to be quit. Was going to quit, and that is the next story beat. How does the sister lose the job? Well, Stitch attacked his customers at work, and so I had to leave. But in live action, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
These people are clearly aliens. How can anyone look at them and be like, oh, this is not an alien? And, in animation, I think it like tricks our brain a little bit because like when characters get hurt, it doesn't register as like a real hit.
Yeah.
And like characters' facial features are exaggerated, right? And so all these things, like, they change the laws of the reality, the laws of that, universe. In that fictional world. So like you can get away with more in animation, and in live action you can't.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like that's a good example of one of the things they had to change for one of the scenes, right? And so there's like because of that, the aliens came to Earth and they became human. Like they adopted the looks of a human being. And a lot of the humor in this movie is like, okay, these people are aliens trying to be humans, and it was pretty funny. And I thought it was funny. So I thought that was pretty well done. And in this story, they did a much better job with the sister, the older sister. Mm-hmm. They really fleshed her out. There was things she was losing out on. She had a character arc as well.
It's kind of one-dimensional.
And it culminated in a very different place for her overall, which made sense for the character. And they had an addition of the grandma, which I just thought was such a logical and easy thing that, like, when I watched it, I was like, I cannot believe this is in the original. Like, why would you not have a character like that? Because I remember when I watched the original, I was just thinking to myself, like, how old is this sister? Yeah. I'm like, what?
I always assume like 16 and like, 9 or 10.
Well, and so, but like when I rewatched it, I was like, okay, like she kind of seems like she's like 22 to me, but like I guess she's a 17-year-old, but like 17-year-olds aren't like this. So it was like kind of odd. But in like the remake, like it made sense. It was like, okay, this is a girl who's trying to get into college, who can't get into college because of her sister, and she has to balance that out. But then her grandma, her neighbor is a grandmother, like an older lady, and is helping out. And I was like, that makes sense. Like I feel like I could see that in my neighborhood. That's like a realistic story. So like those to me are like the pros and the cons. Like overall, I think I like the original better, right? Because a lot of nostalgia there, right? And I that meant a lot to me. And I think the writing is better. It's tighter. But this is probably the first remake I've seen, like a live action, where I was actually happy with it. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm actually happy they did this live action, because maybe it's because Lilo and Stitch meant a lot to me growing up because it was like my generation. I don't have kids right now, but like if I could bring my child there and they could experience Lilo and Stitch, well, I can also experience Lilo and Stitch, and it's like that cross-generational thing. Like that's amazing. Like I don't want Lilo and Stitch to die. I want that story to continue, onward for the next generation. And I don't think they're going to want to watch like a 20 or 30-year-old movie, right?
I don't know. I feel like like some of these cartoons do feel like if I was watching it 20 to 30 years from now, they're still well produced to the point where I'm like, I could see my kids.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you watch a Disney movie from the 1980s?
No, probably not.
Okay, then. So it's a bias because, like, for us, the movies that are 1980s would be their movies that are 2000s.
Agreed, but you can't completely correlate, like, the way a movie was produced in the 80s versus the aughts. So, like, higher production value potentially in the 2000s. So, again, to me, if I'm looking at...
Yeah, I mean, it's an apples to orange comparison. But like, I mean, I'm obviously not a 10-year-old, right? Or like, so I can just think that like...
would you still watch Princess Mononoke? That got re-released in films.
How long did it take me to watch Princess Mononoke?
But, point being...
Bro, how long did it take me, bro? How much did you harass me, and how much did other people tell me to?
Still, you watched
it. And then I watched it. And I was happy to watch it. But that's the thing, like if you grew up with like animation that's so well done, like think about all of these 3D animated Pixar and Disney movies, and now you're going back to something that's like old school, like. I'm going to say that it's still beautiful, and honestly, in a lot of ways, it might be better, right? Because I love 2D animation. But is someone who grew up on 3D animation, that high quality, going to feel the same? Or are they just be like, oh, that's boomer. Oh, I don't want that,
I think it depends on how you introduce, let's say, your child to it. So let's say Lion King. I would probably first start off with the animated version, only because it's far superior in terms of writing, but also... I would do it just to say this was the original version of it, and now compare. And maybe they would I don't know. That
I
would
mean,
be
I
hard.
kind of like the back to back. You know, like I personally like being able to go through both of them, but honestly, like when I finished watching the remake, like I didn't feel like anything was missing in the story.
That's
Like I
good.
felt like it actually hit all the story beats. And then when I watched the original, I was like, "Oh man, they cut out a lot. I can't believe they cut out all this much."
Yeah.
But it still told the same overall story.
You watched the original movie, right? Not the show. You're saying. So you watched the live action, then the next day you watched
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cartoon
Did I
movie.
say it differently?
No, I wanted to make sure you watched the cartoon movie because they made a cartoon movie and then they had the show.
Oh yeah. So I watched the show when I was younger and I grew up on it. But no, I just watched the Lilo and Stitch 2025 live action, and then right afterwards I watched the original animated movie.
Okay, because I think the show started after the cartoon movie came out, so it was popular enough that they then made a show.
And then they made a second, and
yeah.
And the thing is, I think like people sleep on how popular Lilo and Stitch is, and I think this movie is gonna break so many expectations.
I was kind of shocked that this many people are watching because again, the show at the time it came out was like peak Disney, right? Like again, aughts, early 2000s, and I love the show because they expanded it to a point where Stitch got to meet all his cousins. I don't know if you've ever seen the show.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was such a neat idea. A bunch of different aliens that look just like him, fat versions, small versions, mini versions, like big bulky versions. I'm like, this is amazing, and like they had such a crazy cool concept to the show. So like they just kept rolling with it. But I'm still surprised that that was the age I grew up on Disney. So to see other people watching this, like when I was like, damn, is it that popular? Like
Dude, Lilo and Stitch was big, man. Like, and I think like Disney did not realize how big Lilo and Stitch was gonna be, and like they've been kind of sleeping on it.
Yeah.
But like most of the time when people think of like the biggest, Disney franchises, they probably think like I would think Lion King and Aladdin.
Yeah.
I think that's what people think are like the biggest. They don't realize like Lilo and Stitch is massive,
especially because we haven't seen Lilo and Stitch for like 20 years. Like legitimately, there hasn't been any supplemental.
And again, maybe I'm just biased because this is what I grew up on, but I was actually happy for and excited that they brought back Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, I'm actually too. Like when Mulan came out, like I'll be honest, the live action Mulan was not good, and I was not hyped for it. But like this, I was like, I've been very intrigued. Now I was also intrigued by the Lion King movie, the live action. And I just that didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I was really intrigued by Mufasa, because like I was like, okay, Lion King is going to be very similar. And to me, like, I watched Lion King when I was much older. I actually watched it when I was in college, I think, high school or college. Yeah. I didn't really watch a lot of Disney growing up, but Lilo and Stitch was the one exception. Like, that one I loved.
Okay.
And I feel like it kind of marks, like, maybe this is me, I'm maybe biased, but it kind of marks, like, a transition point for Disney because they did a lot of their princess movies. I mean, maybe Lion King was the original transition, but then afterwards they really started spreading into like different things, I
wonder what they're gonna do next. What's up next on their schedule
for what
live action remake?
Oh, I don't actually know. I mean, I don't know what I would want them to do because if they're at Lilo and Stitch time,
like they've basically done the biggest movies. So I'm like, what else is that?
I wonder if they'll do Finding Nemo.
Oh, I didn't think of that one.
But that would be weird.
Was Finding Nemo a Disney thing, or is that like a?
That's Disney. I'm pretty. Oh, it might be Pixar. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because Finding Nemo was big, but the thing is, I think the Disney movies that are successful as remakes are the ones where there's not too much fantastical stuff because that's the jarring part. Like in this movie, like again, why I think it worked. Stitch, the animations for Stitch
good.
And the CGI for Stitch were fantastic because it actually made it kind of look like a teddy bear dog thing. Like it worked. Like maybe it's the Ted, factor. It didn't look odd, and it totally worked.
Well, the fact that it looks like a dog, looks like a pet, it's very playful.
They just it was really well done. Like probably they spent a lot of their budget on making sure Stitch looked
just
good.
Like Sonic,
and that exactly, and like that was absolutely what they needed to do. The aliens look so jarring. Other than Stitch, like all of the other aliens look incredibly jarring.
Yeah.
And so it's not a huge surprise that they basically just had no aliens. Okay. There's like basically no alien scenes, and it's just Lilo and Stitch and humans the whole time. So I feel like Finding Nemo would be hard because like, if it's all non-human characters, and that's going to be weird.
What about, they did Little Mermaid recently, right?
They did that too. They've done like all of them. They did Cinderella already. They did Snow White. They did Lion King. They did Mulan. So I don't know what else they'll do, but they'll find something.
Okay, interesting.
So okay, and then I guess the last movies we've seen recently, Mission Impossible and Final Destination. So
maybe we can start Final Destination first. Interesting, this is what the fifth film. I didn't realize Tony Todd, the guy at the end, the African American dude, black dude. He was been in almost all the Final Destination movies. I didn't realize that.
No.
So I guess he's had a role since then. So I didn't realize that. By the way, again, for those that don't know, he's done the voice of many popular characters and shows and cartoons. He recently did Venom in the new Spider-Man 2 game that came out for PlayStation. He's done a lot of different voices on top of being an actor. But he just passed away not too long ago as well. So I think he had some sort of cancer or something. Which is sad,
But I think we were both surprised by Final Destination. They did a really good job on that movie.
It was like the funny type of death. It was just like so outlandish that it gave me a good laugh.
So ridiculous. I mean, that's my point, right? Like comedy is when you expect it, when unexpected things happen, right?
Yeah. Now they didn't set this movie up like they brought in a ton of horror films back in the last several years, like Halloween and Scream, and now they're bringing I Know What You Did Last Summer, and they've been setting them up to be sequels, especially with Scream. Like it made already 2 films. They were going to do a third. I like the way this ended. Like it was straight up like it killed everyone. That it needed to kill.
Spoilers, but
spoilers.
And the reason I was really impressed by Final Destination is because I thought it would have just been like a cash grab, but they actually took time to pay like homage to like all the old movies.
Yeah.
They actually tied them in a coherent way that was easily digestible, and it just actually didn't make it seem like these were all a bunch of random movies where people were just trying to make a bunch of money and they kept going and going and going. Like it all felt interconnected. I think like in the last scene, I won't spoil it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of like the ending. But other than that, the movie was pretty good.
I think the writing is a little bit of a cop out. So the way they started it made sense to me. Like we all survived longer than we should have. We should not exist.
Yeah, death is coming. Yeah,
death is coming. And there's films prior to this. What I didn't like was that in one of the films, someone does survive, and they said, yeah, they actually died. We resuscitated them. They escaped it. They broke out of the cycle. Let's just do the same thing. Like honestly, that's a cop out. I feel like they should have came up with a different solution.
Device,
Yeah, and it's like, of course,
because the thing is, like, it didn't really feel like. I think the stories that really speak to us is like when the protagonist and the antagonist are kind of like going up against each other, and like the protagonist gets an advantage and the antagonist does, and you're like, oh, who's gonna win in the end, right? Mm-hmm. But in here, it didn't really feel that way. It was just like, I hope we survive, and then there's no real hope for survival, but maybe it'll work. But then
and I feel like I wish they could have symbolized death a little better, because there's a scene at the beginning where the grandma is basically like looks around, like prevents like her flower plant or pot from burning, and she goes, "Death, I know you're fucking with me." And she's like talking to no one, and it's like if they had symbolized death a little, maybe visually or something, to be like, yes, there's an entity out there that represents death and it's coming for us, but like, it just felt like you're running from nothing. Now some of the deaths were cool, like the MRI thing.
Oh yeah, I think the MRI was the highlight for me. I mean, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's at all plausible, but whatever.
Research level, but also so funny because like the guy that died by the MRI, like in the machine, had a cock ring, and so like not only does the rings on his face, his dick just
yeah, that was pretty funny. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess last movie we saw this has just been a week of movies. I think I saw 4 in the last week. Probably a new record for me. But last movie we saw was Mission Impossible, which you made me go see at 10:15, and we got done at 1:30 in the morning because this movie was so long. It was 20 minutes worth of trailers.
This was not a satisfying ending or
not at all
for me to the series and to the last film.
Like it's definitely not the strongest Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Like, they didn't need to split this film up into 2 parts because the entity barely had a part in this film. They just kept saying, hey, it's just going to take over everyone's nuclear, arsenal, and it'll just kill everything.
This is the problem with this kind of movie. Like, if you make the antagonist so powerful, like, it just is going to feel like a cop-out. Yeah, like, it's going to feel like a ridiculous thing. Like, okay, supercomputer AI knows everything, going to take over all the nukes, it's the end of the world. Okay, then where do you go from there? There's no way the entity is going to evolve. There's no back and forth between the protagonist and the antagonist, really. Yeah. You can't really have the entity pop up multiple times, but because it's basically God, so these are the problems with these kind of stories. They're hard to do.
This is why I like the Terminator anime. Sorry, I gotta make this comparison now because I have to, because there's parallels here. But in the Terminator anime that came out last year, it's still about Skynet, and Skynet has the ability to cause doomsday and kill everything using the nuclear assets, right? But they introduce a new AI that's still evolving and learning, and it doesn't know what's right and wrong, and it needs someone to teach it between good and bad.
So we actually see like, hey, this is a weakness. Like, I mean, after watching the whole movie, like, can you look at that AI and think of any weakness it had, other than the fact that, you know, the main character can do things that are impossible in real life. And they're actually, it's not just, it's actually impossible.
It's about, like, literally, you're in 100 milliseconds.
Spoilers.
Guys, 100 milliseconds is really fast. It's faster than the blink of an eye. And they're like, oh, you have to plug in a 5D flash drive, which I don't even know what the fuck is that. I don't even understand what the fuck a 5D flash drive is.
What is 5D?
Plug it in, cut a wire, and hey, because you have sleight of hand, we trust you to unplug it within 100. Bro, utterly insane. But
what is 5D and how does this thing, what is it running on?
Yeah, like what is it? Like again, and for those that don't know, like if you use something that has like NAND flash, it's like eventually memory has to be refreshed. So after so much time, that memory can die and be corrupted. So like, I don't even understand what a 5D flash drive is.
I don't even know. I think they were just trying to use some fancy term. Yeah, they were like, oh, what's a term people don't understand, but they think will sound cool.
Yeah, and like, what's a 40 flash drive then in that universe then? Like, absolutely. Like, am I in space and time? And then like, is this interstellar? Like, is
the fifth dimension?
Like, I don't like, I legit, that has to be. And if that's a real thing, am I just that stupid? Because like,
I don't know, but when I heard that, I was like, this is so ridiculous.
Like, even Tom Cruise, did he approve that in the script? Because like, there's no way. So sorry, just to get back to a point. So with the Terminator anime, again, what I liked is that when there was a new AI and it didn't know what was good and bad and good, it was kind of developed from a human, and then it started to make its own decisions. And then they said, hey, I technically could stop Skynet, but I don't even know if the humans are worth saving, and I need a reason for it.
That's
so I wish the entity had something that it rivaled. Like, because like, I'll be honest with you, like, Tom Cruise could not rival the entity. It literally was told everything that was going to happen.
It read all of his mind.
Yeah, so it was like he wasn't a match, you know? So like, I wish there was something else that could have matched the entity and said, I'm here to stop you. I'm a good AI or whatever.
It was such overkill. And then like, man, I almost felt like it was a Bollywood movie with like the amount of drama. They were like, every missile silo is going to be offline, Madam President.
Yeah.
Are you going to kill 1 billion people to save 7 billion or whatever?
Yeah.
Or not? I was like, what is this insanely dramatic situation? And the only person you can rely on is Ethan Hawke, which you can't even reach. Yeah, so you just sit around in your office doing nothing.
And how stupid of a decision was it for her to be like, oh, I'm not going to kill anyone? Are you stupid? You either wipe out all of humanity, or you kill 100 million and you save the rest of humanity. Are you, like, if I'm president, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm killing 100 million people.
Thank God, I wouldn't have done it.
I mean, I would. Dude, you telling me you're going to let all of humans go extinct?
But there was no guarantee if she did it, if state changed anything. If it was a matter of, okay, you have to do this, and it would 100% work, or even 90% work, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But honestly, what's the percentage chance that
sure, okay.
Like 5%.
I was thinking in the realm of their universe that like it was a surefire
thing. If it was a sure thing, okay.
You know, but maybe I'm wrong. So I don't fucking know.
Arjun, you psychopath, bro. We're going to make a you show about you.
What do you want me to do, man? Like, I'm doing this for the good of mankind.
All right. That's fair. I mean, they did prose it in a certain way.
Yeah.
But, so I thought that was ridiculous. And then the second thing is, okay, I understand you want to take the stunts to the next level again and again, but at a certain point, it's like, dude, this is too much.
Yeah.
Like, the whole scene with the submarine.
It was ridiculous.
And, okay, fine. Like, all of that stuff, you know, it happened. It felt a little slow. What was the point of having to make him take his suit off?
Yeah.
And then getting trapped, you know, pulled down even more by the submarine. It's like, okay, man, like, you couldn't help yourself. You couldn't stop yourself. Like, you've already invented devices that don't exist, multiple, you know, to do something that's absolutely impossible, and told us all these horrible things that will happen with these devices connected, and now they're gone, and you just expect us to believe that you're fine.
Yeah, it really made no sense.
So that was, as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, like, I have lost like any ability to, like, you know, think that this is possible. Like, okay, the whole mask, like putting on the faces of other people is absolutely ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that like there is some downsides and things like that, you're like, okay, it's not a complete, there's like power move out of nowhere. But the submarine thing, after that, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. And then, like,
and the main character, the main
villain,
the antagonist,
so bad. Like the writing,
so one dimensional.
And his dialogue is horrible.
So bad.
He talks and like he's so monotonic that it's just like, dude, shut up. Like you're literally reading from a script. Like it's so bad. And then
it's literally like, ha, I am bad guy. You are supposedly good guy, but I will make you suffer.
Yeah, that's how bad
I am bad.
And I'm actually surprised that this guy actually remembered the lines. Like legitimately, that's how bad it was.
All right, this is spoilers for anyone, but if you watch Mission Impossible, then you can listen to this part. Though I thought it was so ridiculous. In the end, when he's on a plane and he makes Tom Cruise hijack another plane to follow him, and he goes up to him and he's like, I knew that it didn't matter what I did.
You would
the thing that I need would come to me because you would always come. And I'm like, okay, fine. Okay, you are saying that Tom Cruise is so insane he will follow you to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
Why did you need to get on a plane? Why don't you just hide behind a crate with a gun? And then when you get on said plane, knowing that Tom Cruise will come to you, why don't you have a gun with you?
Like the whole plane chase made no sense to the point where he's so stupid that he goes, by the way, there's only one parachute. Literally tries to jump, kills himself, splits his head in half, and it's just like, you cannot be that stupid. You've literally escaped the entity. You've outmaneuvered a bunch of people. You knew Tom Cruise was coming to give you what you wanted, and you killed yourself.
Man,
that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
That was so bad. That was bad. I mean, the thing is, it's a Mission Impossible movie. I liked how they tied in some of the stuff in the end. Nostalgia hit, all those things. Well, I like some of the action. But man,
it didn't hit because they tried to pull it out. They're like, "Oh, don't you remember Mission Impossible 3, 4, and 5, where you took that one thing that you thought was chemicals, like a nuclear, like or whatever. It was a virus in there, and that's what spread and made the entity." It's
like logical person is going to be like, "Oh yes, I feel guilty for destroying the world because this AI is now going to nuke everybody." Like,
well, also again,
how is this your fault?
Again, they basically rewrote the whole series because he thought he was exchanging a bunch of chemicals for his wife. He's like, this thing that's like whatever contagion it is.
It was the birthplace of...
Yeah, but instead it was a virus that once we plugged it in, it created... It's like, you didn't even have to do that. You could have just said this was a separate thing. Like, what's the point of time?
And I guess, like, I shouldn't be too critical of this because God knows my writing is way too convoluted, but this is just things being too convoluted.
Yeah,
too complicated. So... Okay, yeah, that's how I feel about that. So a lot of movies we watched. Probably going to be a lot more movies to talk about this summer because there's a lot of big ones coming out.
I mean, I'm looking forward to Superman. I think July, man.
Even though it's super basic and I know it's going to be the same as every other one, I'm still going to watch Jurassic World as soon as it comes out.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to that. There'll be Fantastic Four. There's going to finally be 28 years later. So I cannot believe they're making that.
And they're making it into a trilogy now.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know about the trilogy thing, but I'm so excited to see that back. That was 28 Days Later is a zombie movie that made me get into zombies. Just like Interview with the Vampire was the vampire movie that made me get into vampires. So I'm super looking forward to that.
I still haven't seen 28 Days Later, so I might try to watch it before 28 years later.
I think that's the first big movie with Cillian Murphy, actually.
Yeah, and so the funny part is they've already confirmed Cillian Murphy will be returning to this franchise in the sequel or the third movie.
Okay, wow.
So he's going to be coming back. Just he's not in this first one. But the big actor is, what's his name? The British dude.
I don't even know.
The guy that played Kick-Ass.
I forgot his name.
Green Condom.
I forgot his name. We just call him that because that was his name in the movie. Okay, now I guess a couple of other things for us to catch up on. I know we've been going on for a while, but we really want to talk about Last of Us because we've been putting that off until we could talk about it after watching the whole season. So I know you haven't played Last of Us Part 2, but somehow you remember all the scenes of that better than I do, and I played it. So what did you think of the season overall?
I think I wasn't as interested in the season 2 as the season 1. Like, honestly, so for those I don't know, the way this season 2 ended is it ended maybe where the game was like 60 to 70% through its playthrough. So they're splitting it into at least 2 seasons. What I liked about season 1 was that like you could have ended it at season 1. Like
Yeah.
legitimately, even with the way the game is, the season 1's like Joel saves Ellie, and it's like, hey, we're just going to continue to go on, and who knows if they could have made a cure or not, based off of Ellie's immunity. But like, there was something that was just more personal there. Without Joel in this season, it just didn't feel.
Yeah, I feel like that's why a lot of people overall didn't like the second game as much too, because when you take a character everyone really loves and you kill them off,
Yeah.
and like that's the viewpoint of the audience, like yeah, it's jarring and like it's the whole like Game of Thrones effect, but I mean it's really hard to get around it
It
too,
is
you know?
because the way season 1 started, again, putting aside the game, is you show me Joel, you show me he has a daughter, and then you show me you find the replacement for his daughter. I'm attached to his character now, so than the adopted daughter. And then for him to just be gone within the first 2 episodes,
So
it's
shocking.
shocking. It's like,
I get why they did it because they wanted the audience to feel the same pain that Ellie is feeling,
sure.
because it's like feels so unfair, and it's just like, well, how? And so that's just supposed to add to the rage. Then to make that audience look at things through the viewpoint of Abby, right, who they are going to detest, and then make them empathize by seeing her struggles. I mean, God, that was such a daring move, and I think that's why I really respect, the Last of Us Part 2. And I think they did as good of a job as they could within the confines of their story.
Yeah.
But they set themselves up for such a difficult task and ask, because if you're going to kill off such a beloved character and then go through the viewpoint of the person who did it, God, that why would you want to do that? You're asking for such a hard job.
Yeah, that I agree with. And again, maybe like you said, see, now you look at an animated film and then a live action film, and there's things that we just more so believe or are willing to like be okay with, that we when you look at a live action film, you're like, hey, the alien clearly isn't a human. I feel like when you're playing a game and you're looking at a
Yeah.
live action, there's like those parallels, right? Like I can believe it more.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like also most of the game you're playing as a character who's killing a bunch of people and hiding and stuff like
Right.
that, right? So like, you already kind of see them as a threat,
Yeah.
right? Because you kind of embody that person and you relate that person because you're playing as that person. But I feel like that doesn't translate over into the TV show, right? And
No.
so I understand how they're trying to make Ellie have like a character arc where she ends up more like naive and then she ends up more like grizzled by the end. I get that. But for a lot of gamers, it's just not going to carry through because, I mean, you're already like a killing monster machine,
Yeah.
right? Like from the beginning of Last of Us Part 2, because you have to be, right? Like, okay, you can't kill people as easily as you did Joel, but you're still killing like 20 people.
Yeah.
And like in the TV show, if one person dies or is about to die, like she's very emotional, but in the game, it's like you're killing 20 people. Who knows if they have families, right?
Exactly.
And so, like, it's kind of jarring, right?
It is jarring. Yeah. So that's the now parallel that I make. It kind of solidifies my point, because in the game, to advance, you're killing those people, but then they make a good point in the show. Literally in the last episode, it goes, my community was like basically destroyed in front of me. I mean, she's talking about Joel, right? And she goes, hey, what's his name? The Asian dude?
Oh, I forgot his name.
Jesse. She goes, hey, you think you're so high and mighty and you're better than Joel because you put the community over like yourself. It's like, you just let a poor kid die. And it's like, in the game, you would have killed, again, 20 of those Seraphites or whatever they're called. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, that it is jarring. It's like.
So, but I mean, that's the thing. Like when you adopt something from like a video game into a movie or TV show, like that's inevitable, right? Because it's not like, if this whole series was Ellie killing as many people as you have to kill in the video game, I mean, at a certain point, we would get numb to the violence. And we would just be like, okay, this is grotesque for the sake of being grotesque. So I understand why there were fewer deaths in this series, this season, but they made each one more impactful and meaningful, right? It's just a challenge of translating things over. And I think some stories can translate easier than others, right? Like, to me, the first season and the first game, it's a lot easy to translate back and forth because that's a more like tried and tested story. It's like, basically, we're going from point A to B, right, in order to, make the world a better place, right, or make things better. But then there's an inverse because what's better is actually different because what's Joel's definition of better is different than what the rest of the world's definition of better is. So that's the interesting wrinkle, but it's a pretty basic story. Like look at Odyssey, like look at it's time tested, easy to translate. But Last of Us 2 is a much more complicated thing to translate over. It's a revenge story, cyclical vengeance from multiple viewpoints, from both the perspective of the victim and the perpetrator, and flipping sides on who's the perpetrator and victim on different sides. So much harder to translate over.
Yeah, and again, now you're not playing as them; you're watching it.
Exactly.
And I feel like if you're playing as both Abby and Ellie in the game, you're kind of understanding their pain, like because you're seeing what they're going through. You're controlling them. Now, one thing that again the show did that was interesting because they had an opportunity to add on to some of these scenes, right? Things that they just weren't able to go back to. Because an example I can give is they show Joel and Tommy as kids, and then they bring their father in, and their father was abused, and then when Joel points out like, "Hey, I don't want you to hurt Tommy," and he goes, "I thought I was doing this to like protect you guys, but you could be a little better than me." And then he says the same line to Ellie, and he wasn't ever physical with Ellie. So it's just like a generation.
Yeah, that was nice. There was nice touches, and so to me, I think I'm really biased when I'm looking at The Last of Us because I obviously love the games quite a lot, and I know what's going to happen, and it's not deviating that much necessarily. That much. So a lot of times I'm just like sitting and waiting because I know what's going to happen. I'm just waiting for it to happen. Yeah. So I'm a lot more of a passive like audience member. I'm not as engaged.
Like, that happened.
I'm not going to be shocked because I know what's going to come, right? So there's that, but I think like some of the nice additions and nice touches they made, I also like the little story about how Joel had sniped that, shot that guy in the back, basically. I felt like that was a little nice touch as opposed to showing her going again to Seattle and going to, the hospital and figuring out herself. I felt like, the him shooting that guy was a nice way of getting to the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So those were smart decisions they made. So I think that rose the score up for me a little bit. But again, it doesn't hit the same as the first season.
I'm still that I agree with, but I'm still getting Uncanny Valley vibes because again, I'm seeing a lot of clips on Twitter where people are comparing the exact scene in the game versus like what the way show's doing, and some of it's like literally one for one, almost beat for beat.
Yeah.
But then when I see the character models in the game, I'm like, damn, I just like can't envision.
Why couldn't they get the same character who because nowadays isn't it that they do motion capture and it's basically like a performance? Like, why couldn't they just get the same exact people from the video game?
And that's why I'm shocked because they actually had Troy Baker in season 1, not as Joel, but as a random dude in one of the groups, and like he could have potentially.
I love Pedro Pascal. He did a great job. So like, I don't think they dropped the ball there, but. Honestly, like I just don't know why not,
Yeah, and then same with Ellie, the actress that does Ellie's voice acting and performance, she's so talented. It's like you could.
And the thing is, like, if they're doing motion capture, right, and they're doing these scenes,
they know how to act.
Because like you're getting to the point where the movies and video games are almost the same thing. So like, why not? So
I agree, and she actually looks kind of like Ellie too.
And I mean. Look, I know there's a lot of backlash to Ellie, like the way she looks and stuff like that. But it's like, come on, like this is your audience. This is what they expected because they played the video game. Like, there's going to be that backlash, Like, and this is what I mean. It's like you're setting yourself up for these challenges and difficulties because, like, you know what you're going to face going in. Like no one who has played the first game and the second game and they've seen that drastic change in how the character looks is going to look at Bella Ramsey and be like, oh, yeah, like there's obviously a big age difference. She looks very similar, right? And I get her point as an actress. Like, okay, I was really stressed out because I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Because I'm not going to look that different. So I empathize with her. I feel for her. I think she's a very good actress. But it's like, that's kind of the choice the directors made. And they put her in that situation by choosing her and choosing not to have a different character and different things, or choosing not to find a way to make her look very young, right? Yeah. Like when she was young, like maybe a different hairstyle, like something like that, right?
Well, so here's the funny part now. So for those, again, that haven't been paying attention, like Intergalactic is the new Naughty Dog game that was recently announced. It's been in development for 4 years. They showed a trailer, right? Here's the funnier part. In the show, The Last of Us on HBO, there's 2 characters already in season 2 that are the main protagonists in Intergalactic.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's weird.
So you got the black girl that's shaved. shaved head. I forgot her name already.
Yeah.
But
she was from You.
She's from You. And you got the guy that portrayed Joel's dad as the main protagonist that's missing within the game.
Really?
Yes. So here's the funnier part. They're not doing this uncanny valley bullshit. They're not taking their performance and putting it on a character model that looks different. This time, it's the exact way they look translated into the
that's
game.
True. Yeah.
And then guess who else is going to be in the game? Wasn't it Kumail Nanjiani,
really?
the actor? And he looks exactly how he looks in real life now in their game. So they're switching it up finally, where however you look is just translated in the game.
I just thought that would be a natural fit, especially for Naughty Dog. Like I feel like they were the pioneers of like really like, you know, movies and video games. Like they're one for one. You know, like remember Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3? Like I was like, oh my god, this feels like playing a movie. Yeah. You know, it was epic. So there's that. You know, I have to say I've been kind of really surprised at IGN scores, and I know everyone on the internet makes fun of IGN, you included. I actually think sometimes they're like they're on the dot. You know, a lot of times with what they say. Like I know people get frustrated. Everyone gets 7s and 8s, but because most things are 7 and 8s. You know?
I just feel like it depends on who they have it review it. If it's a contract versus
I mean, I agree with you on that. Sometimes they'll get someone who's just wildly off. Like, I can't believe they gave Starfield a 7. Like, it just blow my mind. You know, and I'm sure if it was multi-platform, they would have been an 8 or a 9. Like, I feel like there was some massive biases against Starfield because, you know, look, you know, you can. I think people who were just massive Bethesda fanboys are rating it really, really low because they expected something different. Objectively, a 7 out of 10. There's so much content, and it's pretty good content. Yeah. Anyways, I digress. Like, I was surprised by how low some of the episode scores were.
Yeah, I was too.
Right? Like
a lot of 6s.
A lot of 6s, and I was like, what? I was like, look, like I'm being pretty harsh on this show, right? Because I'm kind of a fanboy, and I was disappointed that some things didn't translate over. But I mean, not everything's gonna translate over. Like that's fine, you know. Like this is a different thing. Like I'm not one of those people who needs everything to be a 1-to-1, and if not, like my memory of something I loved is tarnished. You know, like I know a lot of people are like, oh, canon, everything has to be perfect. I just don't get it. You know, it's like these are different stories. Like people are going to do different things. Like you had the thing that you love that's in the past. You'll forever have that memory. Yeah. Why are you afraid that memory is going to be tarnished because of someone doing something slightly different? Yeah, it's the future. Like, you know, but yeah, I would never. I don't think any episode was really a 6. Some episodes were very slow, maybe a 7. But I think overall the season came in for me at like an 8.
Yeah, I think an 8. Like when the episodes really hit, like a strong 8, 8.5. Yeah, and then
when it hit, like the emotional, like they hit. You know, like the lines were good. I mean, some of the ones you mentioned, like they hit. You know, and I was like, oh man, some of the additions were nice wrinkles. So I don't know how you're giving it.
I just don't understand. I'm just like, okay, so like.
And I think there was another episode. I think they gave the episode where Joel died a 6 as well. And I was like, that wasn't a 6.
That was not a 6.
I was like, how is this a 6? I was like, okay, you don't like the way he died, fine. But and you felt like it was jarring. But objectively, a 6 is pretty low for that. Like
you also have to wonder if they had a person review the show that hasn't played the game or not.
Yeah, I don't know. And I feel like it's sometimes really strange. Like you listen to reviewers and they'll like say, and I do this too, you know, they'll say a laundry list of complaints and they'll give you like a -1 score, and then another reviewer will give you one complaint and it'll be like a -4.
Yeah,
it's like okay, all right, like
it's very off. I enjoyed it, but like I think some numbers just came out. The viewership for season 2 dropped drastically compared to season 1. So I think in total they had like 90 million people in total watch all of season 1, and they only had 37 million people watch season 2, and like the final episode only had like 3 million people watch it.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I didn't expect this show to build on itself because season 2 just takes it in such a different direction. You know, I feel like it's Westworld, where like season 2, then season 3, and season 4 were all so different from each other. I don't expect the show to continue like growing with time. But as long as it doesn't dwindle the same way Westworld did, like I'm fine with that. And if they're just gonna do 3 seasons,
I'm fine with that.
Like I think that'll be enough. And honestly, if you're even getting 50% of what you got or 60% of what you got from season 1, like that's still a big success.
I think I'll say this. One is they're lucky that they're getting probably a 3rd season and it's not getting canceled. I.e., we've seen just Wheel of Time and other shows get canceled all the time after 2, normally 2 seasons, but sometimes 3. I think they're lucky they got a 3rd. But I'll say this. The fact that there's always so much pressure on companies like Naughty Dog, who are so big, to constantly output a product that has to be a banger. They can't put out a story and it utterly fail. And it's a testament to them that they made a game that then became a show, and it was popular. So even though the game was controversial, it sold well, and even though that was that controversial, the first season was viewed very well.
Yeah.
So
people I know who are not into video games at all were coming up to talk to me about Last of Us.
Yeah.
And they wanted to learn more about the game.
Yeah, it's kind of
like, oh my god, like that's amazing.
And the fact that they can then release $110 version of a game that come
people
out
still buying
and
it.
people still buying it. So what I will say is that like I have confidence that this next game, even though people are shitting on it already, called Intergalactic, I think it's going to be a good game.
I don't know why. Like I feel like now we've entered the stage where it's like cathartic for people to see, something burn in flames.
Yeah,
it's like even Marathon. Like now everything is burning in flames, and like
maybe that one deserved it.
I don't know. Like things have just gotten so ridiculous. Where either we need these like savior games, or we need these like burn in hell. Like this is the devil. It's like it's become so insanely polarized. Like you don't just like hear something that like is cool and it's okay. Like everything is either a 10 or like a 3. It's insane.
It's funny because like two things. One is
and go ahead.
What's her name again? I'm forgetting her name already. The main actor for now, Intergalactic, the protagonist, she was warned by the person that did Abby's voice in the game for Last of Us Part 2, saying, hey, like, be very careful. There's a lot of like toxicity. Like the fan base is like, they shadowed me. They threatened my life after like, we killed Joel in the game, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, really? She goes, I don't have social media and shit. So I didn't even know any of this was going on. What do I really need to be worried about? So there's this funny disconnect where it's like, oh, I don't understand. Why would people be so toxic for video games? Isn't it just a video game? And she's like, I don't get it, even though, she doesn't pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in that culture, like, it wouldn't make any sense to you.
Yeah.
This is how, like, my wife is like, it's a fictional world. Like,
yeah, but people take it so seriously.
Why are you ready to, like, die for a fictional world? But, I mean, for people, it means a lot to them, and I get it, you know?
And the second thing I was going to say is, if Naughty Dog doesn't deliver story-wise, or the game is an utter failure, dude, then they will get absolutely murdered.
Yeah,
people are expecting.
Because the thing is, like, there are people who are just waiting for them to fail. And the second there's any news that sounds like a failure, they're just going to blow it up. Because that's what a lot of people, like, live on. And, like I said, it's like, if you think about it, like, this is going to be a crazy analogy, but it's almost like you, right? Like, people are making it seem like, oh, like, it's about this game or that game, but it's kind of not, just like it was a device for Joel to actually like do something else. I feel like that's how gaming is, right? Yeah. Like people are looking for something to make like a savior out of, like this is the savior of gaming. And then they're looking for something to make the devil out of gaming, right? And they're just waiting, they're just searching for it. And then they're going to make those stories and just go on. And I don't know what I don't know. It's something that fascinates me. I don't know what purpose it serves for people or like what it supports. But I mean, all the discourse I see, it's basically one or the other.
Yeah, no, I agree, man.
And it's like people can't just like enjoy a game. Like for me, like I loved Avowed. Like it's my favorite game of the year. But it's like, my God, like people are like ready to crucify people for Avowed. At the same time, like Helldivers was very disappointing to me, and people are probably going to crucify me for saying that Helldivers isn't like the most amazing thing. So it's just like things have just become way too polarized. And to bring that up with Naughty Dog, like I also feel bad for them because regardless of like how you feel about Neil Druckmann, like Druckmann has funny, like one way or the other, like the guy's talented, man, like. Like how many people can like write stories in that many different genres? Yeah, and they're successful.
Exactly, and again, he started off as video games when he was young, and for him to evolve into this person that's been writing these stories, like what a crazy path and journey. And then Sony goes, "Oh, there's a bunch of financial pressure. Everything you better put out better be insane."
It's crazy. And I think like he went from heist games, to
frickin'
zombie games, and now he's going to sci-fi games.
Yeah, like insane. How many successful people that you would find in the video game industry write something that? Yeah. And the other thing, again, just to point this out, I'm sure everyone knows this is obvious, but Neil Druckmann also has a family. He's got kids. He needs to spend time with them, and the more pressure he has to deliver, and if he's not encouraged to do his best and motivated and satisfied and engaged in his work, because people are constantly shitting on him online, because these people go online to read the comments, right? You want to not know just based on the vicinity or the immediate vicinity of the people you work with knowing that it's good. You want to know if the whole world likes your shit at that point. Of course, yeah. And if the people are constantly shitting on him, it's like, dude, he has a whole life to live outside of work.
And it's like so infectious.
Yeah, dude. It's like,
and I guess like going back to Marathon, like for me, like I'm actually still excited for Marathon. Like I still want to play it.
Oh, sure.
And the thing
It's
is,
unfortunate what happened.
but like I feel like what happens is, for every controversy or everything that's a question mark, or even things that people blow up into a question mark, you lose this percentage of your potential customer base, and then this potential. And if you turn off now 5% of people because they're worried about some voice chat, your proximity chat feature, okay. Then you lose another 5% worried about the cost, and you lose another 5% worried about the number of maps, and you lose another 10% because of art theft and things like that. And all of a sudden you've lost like 35% of the people who could buy your game, and that might be
enough
too many, and then that might, okay, it makes you money but not enough money. And I feel like right now people just want like Marathon to burn, and it was the same with Assassin's Creed Shadows. How long was the fervor that Ubisoft needs to die and Assassin's Creed Shadow is terrible? And then it came out, and guess what? It was another Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah,
and it did well, just like other Assassin's Creed games. Yeah. And it was like, how much of the internet, how many petabytes of data or terabytes of data were all consumed by talking about Assassin's Creed, and if it was going to fail or if it sucked. All this attention and energy. And guess what? It came out, and it was similar to other Assassin's Creed games, and it did similar numbers. And life went on.
Yeah,
right.
That was like with Bungie again. You're right. If you put in contextually into like everything that you're saying makes sense. The one caveat I'll say to that is like if you look at this specific instance, stealing art from someone, this isn't their first time of being accused of it. It's like their fourth time. So there's something definitely going on there.
The thing that really surprises me is why weren't we seeing so much more like more backlash? And like I didn't even know about the prior. And I feel like I actually hear about like a decent amount of news. How did none of this stuff like pop up on like IGN's like homepage or like on anything? Like if this is like the third or fourth time they've done it, and now all of us are saying, "Oh yeah, Bungie's done this multiple times before." And I'm just like, "What? Like, is this common knowledge for the last 5 years? Everyone's just been knowing this?"
Yeah, it's like, kind of weird. Like, because like I remember one time, but like I even like ignored it. Yeah, probably not real. Who cares? And then like to then hear that it had involved in it, like.
But I mean, not to belittle anything, but it's like, okay, like people were like gassing up Destiny, and then they're stealing art about Destiny, and you didn't see it have a massive controversy. Now everyone wants Marathon to fail.
Yeah, that's why.
And they get caught, with art theft, and now it's like 10 times more. I mean, this is a lot more egregious, and it's just absurd to me that somebody. I mean, it's so stupid. It's like the people who love video games and they do all this fan art or even actual art. If you just hit them up and you're just like, "Hey, we love what you're doing. Can we use it?"
Yeah, it's so easy.
They're probably gonna just give you it for free.
Yeah.
And look at Halo Infinite, bro. They are literally running on fans for like the last like year and a half with Forge.
Yeah.
And they give them a little bit of credit, and these people are like slaving away. I mean, God, they're amazing.
That's true.
And it's like, it's not like really, and it's sad, but like this is fandom. Like, I mean, to be able, and like for me as a fan, like if I was a writer and I slaved away and I wrote something and it got included in the next Halo game, bro, I would be so happy.
True.
And it's like, why couldn't you just reach out to this person?
I agree. Well, again,
even if you threw him a little bit of money, like
what? So here's the thing, right? Look at it from this angle. One is you're paying a designer $100K to come up with original content, and they're like, "Fuck it, we'll just steal this shit on Twitter, wherever." They're like, "I can't come up with shit, but I get paid to do it." Two, think about it this way: Halo, Forge, people are creating a bunch of maps and shit, not getting really paid for it, getting some recognition, cool. But is that Forge map making them a shit ton of Halo Studios a shit ton of money compared to if you make art that's going to be on the character for the entirety?
It's more a fundamental thing. Yeah.
It's a fundamental thing that then I'd be like, okay, well, can I get paid like a percentage?
But you know what really impressive? It sounds me, okay? Like if you got that far in your career, okay, you must have a modicum of talent. Like even if you're a hack, and let's say you've cheated a million times, you can't get that far with like zero talent, especially if AI is not even a thing as you got up the ranks. So you must know like general rules of the trade, And like, is Bungie actually gonna fire you? I guess maybe I shouldn't speak too soon. Like, and I just thought about this now. Maybe the reason we're seeing this stuff in Bungie is because management is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
They would fire somebody if they went up to them. They're like, "Hey, I saw this cool thing on the internet from somebody else. I think we should give them $5,000." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, we'll give them $5,000 and we'll fire you because we don't need."
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, I think I get like, man, that management screwed up.
Yeah, the management, and there's always been rumors about how that leadership has always been toxic since the Activision split. So.
And I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating, but man, if your management is that bad, like,
it's been
how did you even make Destiny?
Justin Legary just came out with a video the other day talking about. He basically interviewed a lot of Bungie employees anonymously, and from what he got, it's a small sample size. Their leadership has been toxic since they split from Activision. And so it's stuff like this that either people got away with and they ignored, or similarly, they encouraged them to do crazy shit like this. So I'm not going to believe all of it because it's just the sample size is small. People, you can always have really mad employees that just say
you're going to have some bad eggs, I get it. You're going to have some disgruntled people,
But I'm just like, at the end of the day, what from the rumor is Colin Moriarty knows quite a bit now. He's basically saying that they're canceling all the marketing plans as of this moment for Marathon, and they don't know if the game's getting delayed or not.
They should delay it.
Probably need to delay it, in my opinion, yeah, and figure that out. To me,
I mean, honestly, if you delay it like 6 months to a year, you just avoid when Grand Theft Auto is going to come out. You just add in like 2 more maps. You amend all the things that went on with the art.
Exactly, and then you get it back out there. Like, see, I think the bigger symptom of what you said earlier, why people are hating on this shit, it's a bigger symptom of the Sony ecosystem. The fact that they've had so many live service games fail, right? They can't get even The Last of Us Factions game out, which a lot of people were looking forward to.
They canceled that, right?
Yeah, they canceled it. They were looking to that. More fans were looking forward to that than the game itself because of how the story went down, right? Of Last of Us Part 2. Then all of a sudden, now you get announced that Fair Games becomes Fair Game and Jade Raymond is leaving. And they go, wait, the only live...
Wait, they changed their name?
Yeah, because it's so fucking bad. They basically had internal play testing, and it's fucking horrible. Again, Colin Moriarty is substantiating a lot of this. He has contacts in Sony, and he's like, yeah, that's why she left. She was basically fired,
Oh, man.
So they gave her a chance to just say, hey, I'm out. And then you go, all that shit fails, and they go, oh, the only live service game that I guess we're going to release is Marathon. Everyone's probably pissed at, like, another Bungie fucking game. So I think the bigger symptom is that Sony fucking failed all their fans. And so people
they really dropped the ball on the live action stuff.
Yeah, and so people are hating on Bungie not because of complete of their outputs, because the bigger symptom is that in that ecosystem,
I guess like when you say it that way, like I never thought about that, but like if you've been let down again and again, like you need somewhere to channel it. Yeah. And I feel like it's like that cathartic, like someone needs to suffer.
But think about it. If they had released 5 live service games and this still happened, they're probably not. People aren't going to shit on Bungie as hard. They're going to be like, oh, we still got other games.
Yeah, I guess it's like the Xbox thing, where like for a long time there was a string of nothing. Yeah. So like if anything came out, like it had to carry the weight of every failure.
It had to be a 10 out of 10.
Like you couldn't just carry the weight for yourself. You had to carry the weight of like Redfall and everything before it.
And every game that came out was like a 7 out of 10.
It's so like that's not enough. Like when I think about it, like okay, South of Midnight, 78 game, I was happy with it. Sure. But if like South of Midnight was the only Xbox game I got for 2 years,
you'd be like,
oh my god, bro.
You'd be so much harsher on the game.
Bro. End of the world. Yeah.
You'd be like, why can't we get a better Halo instead of South by Midnight?
I think for me, like, I've just loved Bungie for so long, and I was a massive Destiny hater. Like I was so disappointed that they were moving away from like their story roots with Halo, and I just felt like there was too much grinding, and I feel like even the PvP, they let me down on that. But overall, like I had fun with the game, and there's just not that many great first-person shooters anymore.
Look, Shmir, sometimes you just gotta let go, man. You've loved Halo for too long. You loved Bungie for too long.
Well, I was thinking about that because at least I have now Doom now to
That's
support
true.
that. But the reason I say that is like there's just not a lot of great first-person shooters. Everything has become so it's just
it's formulaic.
Plays, formulaic stuff.
And like okay, even if we get a decent shooter in terms of gameplay mechanics, they shoehorn microtransactions or it's live service, and I'm like, I don't want that. And we can't. When Space Marine 2 came out with just this simple ass competitive multiplayer, again, it's not even that good, but people are like,
people gobbled it up.
They gobbled it up.
Oh my god, thank you.
Yeah.
So I say that because a part of me was excited that like, hey, I was really disappointed and let down by Destiny, but in the end, Bungie did deliver. I was not 100%, but they delivered enough for me to be happy with Destiny overall. Maybe Marathon will be the same thing, and I've never been in extraction shooters, but maybe this is going to be the thing that'll get me into it, right? But now, yeah, man, they really need to delay it. I think if it comes out the way like this way, it's gonna flop. I feel like it's gonna be another like Halo Infinite. Ironically, because with Halo Infinite, really, I feel like if they gave it another year or 2 years, bro, Halo Infinite would have been bomb. Like it would have came out and it would have been great.
Too many high expectations. That one's on Phil for him being like, it's launching with the Series X console. Like, bro,
I just think that's such a shame because it's like now Microsoft has so many stuff, on Game Pass and so many things for people to play. Like if we could just move Halo Infinite 5 years forward and we got a polished, complete package with like variety and level design. Dude.
But that's what everyone said about Cyberpunk, and it took 4 years later for everyone to be like,
this is finally complete. Not everyone loves Cyberpunk. They talk about it like it's like amazing how everyone has forgotten the controversy.
Yeah, revisionist history. But is it fair? Like, you promised me something 7 to 12 years ago, and then it still took 4 years for it to become the complete edition.
No, it's absolutely not fair.
Yeah, which is why with Halo, even if it came out in 2023 or 24, I'd still be upset because I'm like, okay, this feels like a complete package with Forge. Maybe the contents all isn't there, but I'm like...
People will be upset at how long it took. Yeah. But I mean, I think was it Shigeru Miyamoto?
Shigeru Miyamoto,
yeah. He said, like, a bad game will forever be bad. But, like...
A good game, no matter how long it takes. Yeah, a delay game, yeah.
Exactly. And so same thing, like, yeah, you would be disappointed, but, like, if you got satisfied because you eventually got what you felt like you deserved, right? Then, you'd be like, all right, fine. I'm grumpy. It took me too long, but at least I got it in the end, But if you never got it in the end...
But that's like saying beggars can't be choosers. Oh, you'll get it when you get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like...
No, I know. I mean, in an ideal world, like, we would get things the way they should be,
but
when they're promised, right?
Not even that. I'm more of like Halo 5 and where it ended. The promises weren't met. So, yes, I might be asking you to bring me the next game sooner. 5 years, but is that unrealistic?
No. So I think the fan demands for Halo Infinite were not unrealistic. I think that was a great example of management totally bombing, screwing it up. And I think what happened needed to happen because 343 really needed to have so many people axe. They needed to, kind of reshuffle everything, restart. So that needed to happen. I think for me, in hindsight, since we're talking about it, the shame is even if you gave Halo 4 more time, it wouldn't have been able to deliver on what fans wanted. If you gave Halo 5 more time, it wouldn't have been able to deliver because they did not get it as a studio.
Yeah.
But finally, after Joseph Staten came in and there was a lot of updates and change, if you gave Halo Infinite truly more time, and it was an unrealistic amount of time it needed, the budget was way too high. It was impossible for them to really give it, to me, at least 2 years more it needed. But if you could, they could have actually done it because they finally started to get to what Halo needed.
Maybe,
but it was too little, too late.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. That's a shame to me because I'm just like, God, if only you guys had realized this earlier in your development cycle, which is a hindsight bias, but it's like after so many years of as a fanboy waiting for it, like you guys actually got it. Just too little, way too late.
But is that true? See, like, devil's advocate, I'm just going to play this a little bit because I know we kind of went off topic, but, like, with Halo Infinite specifically, Joseph come in. He was supposed to be the cleaner, the fixer-upper. But you know what? They rebranded the fucking studio. Now they're called Halo Studios after he left.
Yeah.
So is he part of the problem? Even he couldn't have potentially fixed it. I'm just saying devil's advocate.
I think that's fair. I think that was an impossible ask, and I think from what I gathered, like looking into rumors and like what people said on the inside, there was 2 different paths a studio could go forward with. It was either Joseph Staten's vision or this other
Jason
guy.
Pierre.
And then they chose him. They liked his vision better. So I mean, I wasn't on the inside. It's not like I know what Joseph Staten's vision was, but at least judging from his interviews, the things he said, like Halo Infinite needed, things he prioritized. The fact that he made Halo 3 ODST and he knows Halo, like, I think he had his eye on the right thing, and I had my trust in him. You know, like, I actually trusted him as the leader. And to me, like, and again, this is all hindsight. Perfect World would have been great, but if Joseph Staten had just been involved earlier,
maybe
Bonnie Ross was out the door. But then also, this is impossible to ask because you need half of 343 fired.
Exactly.
And if they were able to make that pivot earlier and they had just more time for Halo Infinite to cook, we could have actually had a very good Halo game.
Maybe. Again, I'm just gonna say maybe because we don't know what direction it could have went in. But what you said earlier makes a lot of sense here. I think that franchise just needed a fresh start, and they're doing that right now by finally using a different engine.
But I was just thinking about this. Like, I'm happy for the people who will get to replay or play for the first time the Halo remake.
Because it's coming on PlayStation.
Oh yeah. And I think it's going to catch a lot of attention and things like that. But at the same time, like, I've actually played a lot of Halo, so like I'm okay with not playing the Halo 1 remake. I'm still going to play it, but I'm not as excited for it. But the time it's going to take for them to make Halo Infinite 2 is so long, and people don't care enough about Halo Infinite that by the time Halo Infinite 2 even comes out, like, it's kind of like a yesteryear thing.
I agree, but what if they didn't go a different direction? See, again, with Jason and now this fresh start and the rebranding, what if they go, okay, we released Halo 1 Remake. It's popular on PlayStation and Xbox. We're just rebooting the franchise.
I mean, they could. If they decide to go in a completely different direction where, like, it's Halo 1 Remake, but Halo 1 does not end in the same way in the remake, and it's like a remake trilogy, they could totally do that.
They could totally do it.
I don't know if they will because, all the Halo YouTubers I've been watching have not really been thinking that. Like, they've been saying that, no, it's multiple games and it's Halo Infinite 2 and it's coming later. You never know, things can scrap. But it's something to be said about, like, constantly changing your course of direction.
Yeah.
Like, if they're trying to make Halo Infinite 2 and then Halo Remake and then they scrap it to make a new remake trilogy, that's a completely different direction. That's the problem with what's been happening. Like, that's Halo true. 4 went in one direction, Halo 5 went in another, Halo Infinite went in third.
Yeah, I agree.
And they've just been going around. So, I mean, I digress. I'm a big Halo fan, but I just can't think of, like, another studio that did something like that.
Not that
like,
that hard.
With
maybe
the fans,
Mass Effect, maybe BioWare.
Like, could you imagine if, like, the only other one I can think of, Capcom, like, after 5 and 6 came out and they were totally different than what people wanted. 7 came out and you waited a long time for it and you played 7 and you're just like, oh my god, this is 70% of where you needed to be.
Yeah.
And oh my god, if only you guys weren't such idiots while you're developing this, you could have been 100% of where you needed to be and put this all behind you.
Yeah.
That's the closest analogy, but no, Resident Evil 7 hit where it needed to hit, and then you could just kind of forget 5 and 6 and move on.
It's funny you say that because that's probably the best example because they did 7, they did 8 that built off of 7. So again, that's the reboot. But then they go, well, let us go back to the old shit like 2, 3, and 4, remake it, and also we have so here's our 2 paths. I don't think, in my opinion, Halo Infinite falls in the first bucket. I think they're gonna do your remake, which is they go back to the old shit, quality of life improvements, broader audience. Great. That's already like figured out. I think you reboot it, you make a sequel to Halo Infinite, but you don't call it Halo Infinite 2. It's just another Halo whatever, and it's also on Unreal, and it's just completely different from Infinite, and you go, this is the
But will they continue the story?
I think they have to disregard that story from Infinite, honestly.
But then if they disregard the story, then they have to remake it, because the thing is, like, Halo Infinite and Halo 5 have deviated so far away that, like, either you continue the story of Halo Infinite or you restart from zero.
That's true.
And then you go in the opposite direction. Because if you restart from zero and then you go 1, 2, and 3 and they're the same, and with the hopes that now you'll get the Halo 4 that you actually should have gotten from the beginning, who is going to replay all of Halo 1, 2, and 3 with no differences?
Maybe
just to get a Halo 4 15 years later that's going to finally progress the story.
Maybe this is their silver timeline. Maybe, again, Halo 1, 2, and 3 deviate from the original
So that's
game.
the thing. So to me, like, that's they're going to have one of two choices. Either they change Halo 1 enough that it goes in a different direction, or they're just trying to do what Capcom did. And they could have done what Capcom did successfully if they had just spent a little bit more time with Infinite, because I think, like, everyone hates on it, but if you look at the way the multiplayer is now, people who are actually playing the multiplayer, like, other than the fact that, like, the microtransactions are crazy expensive, which, I mean, they got to make money now, but I agree, they're ridiculously expensive. most people don't have anything to complain about with the actual state, and it's actually still getting decent content.
It's true. Like and people play it. It's just it feels like PUBG to me. No one talks about PUBG anymore, but they play it. It almost still feels irrelevant.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
It's the shame.
It's irrelevant, and the campaign is probably the thing that needed the most work. But honestly, if you gave that another year of development time, you probably could have added in the levels you needed to get a variety in the biome, and people would have been really happy with it overall. But
I agree.
Anyways, I digress. What I'm actually hoping for is like now Microsoft is pivoting away from Halo, right? They're spending more time on Gears, Fable, Perfect Dark. They're going to build those franchises up. Bethesda has been a great focal point. They're going to build up Doom. They're going to build up everything. So then by the time it's time for us to pivot back to Halo, like people will be wanting it. Like right now, like other than Halo fanboys, I don't know if people are really asking for Halo.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think they. I think they've been burned enough times. Like they want a good Halo, but they just had a Halo TV show they were disappointed in. They just had Halo Infinite. They've had a lot of bad news and questionable news. I don't think like people are thinking more that's in the yesteryears, and their attention is separated into different things.
I agree.
I think this is the time you just build and grow, and then like we talked about with Gears, right? Like
I was about to say Gears right now.
Right? Like after Gears 5, like people were like feeling all type of way. And now everyone cannot wait for Gears 6.
Yeah, which is actually funny. So that people have mood swings, So don't be surprised if in like 2 or 3 years it's like, I need Halo. So
no, that'll come because there's nothing filling that niche, right? And clearly not Marathon, right? And so Marathon. Eventually people will miss that. Like sci-fi, alien, first-person narrative story. We're not getting it anywhere, but I think it's going to take a while. Like I think people are truly not going to miss Halo until I think 3 years.
3 years, yeah, I could see it. Like I said, I miss Gears now, but it has been 5 years, so it's like makes sense. The feelings come and go.
And I feel like even with like another game like God of War, like I would love another God of War, but I'm okay with waiting a little longer. I'm still okay, because I feel like we got a good amount of God of War.
Yeah, we got a very good amount. But there's a rumor already that something God of War related is going to be announced this year. So
all right. So I guess we've been going for a while. So just finishing up on a couple things. Game Pass has Metaphor Fantasia as well. So I feel like an idiot because I just bought it last month.
Damn, bro. Who told you to buy that shit?
You did. So I guess that's that. And then I guess, last thing for us to end on, because we'll probably do the next one in like 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on how much news there is. What are you looking forward to?
A couple things. You got the Nintendo Switch 2 releasing in 10 days. Let's fucking go.
Did you pre-ordered it?
Yeah, but
oh my goodness, I did not. So as soon as you get that, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
What game are you gonna have on day one?
Mario Kart for sure. Mario Kart and Cyberpunk. I bought the Ultimate Edition, pre-ordered that. I just having to play that portably. I just think it makes sense. And then Summer Games Fest is in 2 weeks, and then you got Microsoft's Game Showcase also in 2 weeks. So honestly, June is.
When is it exactly?
I think June 8th and June 10th. Summer Games Fest and Microsoft.
Oh my goodness! I did not realize it's in the beginning of the month.
So I can't wait, man.
Well, that's interesting. We're rolling straight from Doom into Microsoft Showcase.
Yeah, and there's a rumor right now that there's going to be another Nintendo Direct for the Switch 2 right around the launch of the console. And it's from a credible leaker, so like I just believe that there will be. So we could get potentially 3 big showcases. Like honestly, that's E3 battle. Go.
There we go. Should be a fun one. Should have a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah, you're right. June 8th, so right around the corner. All right, that's it for us. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Peace.